Welkom vanuit een warm Rotterdam bij de aftrap van Apps Connected 21. Mijn naam is Hering Lichtert. Ik ben namens de OBUG de startpunt van een vierdaags evenement. Door de omstandigheden deze tijd allemaal via een webinar, dus live broadcasting. Het is even niet anders, maar we hebben een prachtig programma voor vanmiddag. Naast me zit Philippe Pletting, nieuwe vertegenwoordiger bij OBUG voor de SIG JDE Edwards. Philippe, welkom.
Ja, dankjewel Hering. Ik zal me even heel kort voorstellen. Sommige van de mensen zullen me waarschijnlijk al wel kennen. Ik werk voor Scherpenhuizen als procesmanager. Zo ben ik in aanraking gekomen met JDE Edwards. Binnen Scherpenhuizen werken we al sinds 2004 eigenlijk met JDE Edwards. 2 jaar geleden hebben wij bij Scherpenhuizen een SIG-event on-site georganiseerd. Ja. En dan een maand of 2 maanden later was er de OBUG, de laatste OBUG on-site event. En toen werd ik gecontacteerd door Wouter of ik zin had om mee te stappen in de OBUG en mee te helpen met events te organiseren. Toen kwam spijt genoeg corona, dus ik heb eigenlijk nog niet veel kunnen doen. Hier en daar wel eens een webinartje meegedaan of eentje van de sessies was de JDE Talks. En nu ben ik eigenlijk de eerste keer dat ik op de voorgrond treed. Ja. Dus, en misschien nog even kort. Ja, sommigen zullen het wel horen, ik kom uit België. Dus de bedoeling is misschien dat ik ook een beetje in het België de Belgische klanten terug een beetje ga benaderen om te betrekken bij de OBUG. Dat het een echte Benelux-organisatie gaat worden.
Ja, de B staat voor Benelux inderdaad. En de Nederlandse zijn vaak vertegenwoordigd. Gelukkig ook een aantal Belgische, maar blij aan boord te hebben. Je noemde de naam Wouter al. Wouter zal later op de middag ook een presentatie geven. Die zit vandaag niet hier, ook omdat hij met drukke werkzaamheden en ook herstellende is geweest van COVID. Maar gelukkig is Wouter later aan boord. En ik ben erg blij dat zowel Wouter als jij het gezicht meer als de gebruikersorganisatie van Edwards. Vandaar staat ook de usergroep voor. Dus vanuit de Edwards gebruikers naar het verbinden naar alle andere klanten en bedrijven. Ja. Nou, wat Philippe al zei, afgelopen jaar COVID. Normaal gesproken hebben we altijd rond deze periode Apps Connected op 1 dag met alle applicaties bij elkaar. Dat wordt dit jaar dus 4 middagen waarbij we vandaag dan aftrappen met Edwards. In het najaar november en die staat voor dit jaar gepland op 18 november. Dan proberen we dus zeker een fysiek event te organiseren om het netwerkgedeelte met alle mensen en gebruikers en bedrijven toch weer bij elkaar te krijgen. 1,5 jaar geleden was in Fort Voordorp de laatste. Afgelopen najaar hebben we het via een webinar gedaan. Nu zitten we in een prachtige omgeving, Rotterdam. Het is hier bloedheet. Het is ook een van de warmste dagen tot nu toe in het jaar. Dus, maar we gaan er een mooie dag van maken. Qua programma, we hebben verschillende sprekers van Oracle en ook van Wouter vanuit de klanten base met verschillende onderwerpen zoals de agenda heeft laten zien. Als eerste Paul McCartan. Paul, a very warm welcome from the Netherlands.
Thank you. It's not quite as warm here as it is with you, but thank you for the welcome.
You're more up north, I believe.
I'm up in Denmark, yes, but it's warm here as well.
Yeah. Paul McCartan, you're representing AppsUnlimited. Which is, of course, the connection between Oracle as a big company and the customers as well. Especially for JDE Edwards, can you give us an update? What is happening with JDE Edwards in our region?
Yeah, no problem. Firstly, I love my job, and I think all my team members, if you've met them, love their jobs. We get to help customers unlock the potential that's already in the investment they've made, and that's what we do. And we've just finished our financial year. It's probably been the best financial year for our business unit that we've had in many, many years. And I'll maybe spend a moment on what that is. But for JDE, we've doubled the business in JDE over the last financial year. Yeah, doubled the business. And it's kind of come from a couple of things. I think people have, because of COVID, reinvested back into the platforms they already have. And we're obviously seeing a lot of that. We've had several large accounts that over the years have made decisions to move away to SAP. We've seen them come back and reinvest back into JDE, re-platform, modernize, and deploy JDE further into their manufacturing plants. And we see that across the region. I said we doubled. We also see net new names. Now, we've had net new names in JDE for many years now, but a small number. We've seen that accelerate over the last year. And for many reasons, I think we've put extra investment in, but I think the customers see the value in the platform, and our partners have helped them to see that value by showcasing those solutions. So I think it's an effect that will keep going, and it's not just a one-off. The other thing we've seen considerably a lot of is our JDE customers migrating or moving it to the cloud platform. I'm not paid on cloud platform. I have no shares in cloud platform, but I would say the vast majority of customers we've seen make that move have been extremely happy. I mean, the performance, the scalability, the dev and test enhancements, so they can actually do, roll out different environments at different times for different needs. The feedback I've got from a big number of CIOs is incredible. They've not only done that implementation and migration very, very quickly, they're really happy when they get to that new environment. So we see a lot of those, and I think that's helped to accelerate the JDE platform. It's put new life into some of the JDE accounts that we've had and customers.
You mentioned a double grow. What is the impact of that kind of number of users in our region in growing towards our audience at this moment? Because there are current JDE Edwards users. If there's such an enormous growth, what does that mean for them?
I think it's good news. The community is more vibrant. It means me as a business leader, I get to invest more into the area. So if you look at it, I doubled my headcount in solution engineering just in JDE. I don't know why I can only find JDE people in Belgium, but Belgium seems to be a hub for me. I don't understand it, but I get very good skilled people. In fact, the last resource I hired, I think I met him at a OBUG event. So I think that community we're adding to that community. But it allows me to invest in other areas. I'm working considerably with the partners in the Benelux to invest back into JDE, to get more things going, roll out more innovation, go back to customers and add stuff on that wasn't there before. So it's allowed me to do more investments than I had done over the previous years. Yeah. I think the product, we'll have more money back into the product. I actually don't think that's been an issue. I think the history of JDE, the product itself, it stands up to any test. I will still say this, and I say this to all the customers. JDE is the jewel in Oracle's crown of a product that works, that looks great, that functions. So we'll continue that and continue to give that innovation in the product.
So Oracle is very happy with JDE Edwards as a product. What can our participants and our customers can expect from AppsUnlimited furthermore then? Besides all the investments what you showed, what makes it more practical for them to reach out to you?
Well, as I said, kind of my headline was, our team, my team is helping customers unlock the potential they've got. A lot of customers have invested into JDE, and we try and help them to give them a future. What is that future? And to be honest, the future is more complex than it's ever been before in terms of demand from their end customers and their needs and their business needs. It's, digitalization, many reasons. You can link to COVID, link to everything. Mm-hmm. So, there's that. Then there's the kind of the replatforming. There's new technologies coming along. So, my team is there to help those guys, help the customers navigate that, build their IT strategies for the future. JDE specifically, I've added another rep specializing just in JDE and just in the Benelux, because there's demand. There's customers asking those questions. What next? What do I do next? What innovations do I need to do? Do I deploy this? Do I roll out this? Do I replatform? Do I need to bring in AI technology? There's many questions. So as far as I'm concerned, the JDE community is very vibrant. The product is actually the de facto standard in many industries, and we want to continue in the Benelux, which is my third biggest market. is the Benelux for JDE. I want to continue that. I want to continue to make those customers happy, to take them on their journey for what they need for the future.
Yeah. I do see a remark from one of our participants, Wouter, which he says, will the user interface of JDE change to a more modern user experience?
I don't agree with that comment. I actually think JDE has inbuilt a very modern user interface. But I'd like the person to come on a call with me in development and give the feedback directly. The feedback I get from most clients when it comes to JDE is that the user interface is fantastic, not just good, but fantastic. Now, it's a big product area. It's very deep functionality. So there may be areas where, okay, there's back-end screens that may still look a bit outdated, and maybe we can do some work on that. So will it be overhauled? I'm not the person to ask. So hopefully in this call, you'll have somebody from development that will give the answer to that question. I don't want to speak for them, but I will say that I think the product is world-class when it comes to look and feel.
Yeah, we'll pass that question anyway at the end of the afternoon to the dev team, Paul. Exactly. Perhaps some other participants have questions. So if you have a question, just find the chat box and do post your question. Can you give a more message to the Oracle Benelux user group, Paul? What we are doing as a community, because we all do it besides our work, and we're in between the users and Oracle as a company, etc. So how can we strengthen our community with the help of you? Well,
look, I'm always up for that. I really, I visit the Netherlands on a regular basis, and attending these events, I prioritize, and so do my team. Maybe I'll spend a moment talking about what some of the customers are doing and refer to some of the cases in the Benelux. I don't know them all, and I apologize in advance for my Dutch pronunciation of some of these names. But the one, Boardmalt, upgraded, migrated, re-platformed onto OCI, and rolling that platform out to many more areas than they've ever had before. And Quistor helped them to do that in a very short space of time. And the feedback I get is that they're extremely happy with doing that. The Hogwarts, taking, is that the right pronunciation?
Yeah, Hoogweg, but that's correct.
They've already had JDE, they've had it for many years, but they've taken the Quadrant solution for commodity trading and, used that to actually get additional business benefit from them. So we also have partners with unique differentiation solutions that are adding on top of what the core JDE product does, which is great to see. The companies get huge benefit from it. The partners, create an environment which they can actually help more customers. So it's vibrant in the Benelux. And there's a few more I can mention, but I'll probably get all the names wrong, so I'll stop there. I'll stop while I'm ahead.
Well, you're doing a great job, Paul. Thanks. I like, by the way, your background.
Thanks. Also, a Belgian driver. Oracle now sponsoring the
Formula 1. A Belgian driver, Paul.
Yes, we call him a Belgian driver, if you listen to him. I'm from Belgium, Paul. So
we have a little miscommunication here between Netherlands and Belgium.
Okay, maybe he's Dutch. Maybe I'm wrong. But Oracle but it's good news. Oracle is now sponsoring a lot of they're sponsoring the F1 and they're sponsoring the Premier League. But the story about what they're sponsoring is brilliant. As a sports fan, which I absolutely am, they're giving the intelligence of live intelligence to the masses. So especially in the football, the Premier League now will have, coming up when you're watching the match, next likely goal will be by X, the potential to score. So I'm not sure what the betting companies will think of it, but as a consumer who watches a lot of sport, I'm all in for it, and hopefully that will expand. So real-time analytics at scale it's brilliant. So it's a brilliant story, and I like it.
And I see a question from one familiar person to me. You're mentioning sponsoring to the Premier League and the Formula 1. So first question pops up: are we paying too much?
Sorry?
Are we paying too much?
Well, when it says sponsorship, it's not specifically the money. The sponsorship is the IT.
Yeah.
So giving them our access to our IT, and then they advertise our brand. So I'm not sure there's that much money involved. So it's not about the funding of certain customers to fund other things. I think it's the opposite. I think the IT is the funding that Oracle does. Now, please don't quote me on that. I'm not.
No.
I'm not paid on it. I don't have shares in it. I'll have a discriminate. But yeah, as a sports fan, we've never seen this in Europe. No offense. You know, if you go to US, you get off the plane in San Francisco, you can see all the baseball arenas with Oracle branding and everything done. American football, all those sports are done. But these are European sports that are global sports, global sports, not American global sports, that now Oracle is taking a leadership role in. So it's great news. I think it'll be more and more. We'll see it more sports and more things in Europe. So, you know, I think the Oracle is investing into more global activities, which is great news.
Yeah. So you're, if I understand it correctly, looking at Formula One and Premier League as Oracle, you are investing because you already have the infrastructure with data transaction, data analytics, etc. What will be then the link to JDE Edwards as an application? How does Edwards benefit from that part?
Well, it's actually there's a huge benefit, because actually, you know, when I say about replatforming JDE onto OCI, some of the customers are getting huge benefits from then being able to adopt machine learning, artificial intelligence that is embedded into the platform. So without even being embedded into the product per se, the product takes advantage of some of those capabilities. And I think you'll see more and more of that. I know the development teams have worked, and some features are there to embed machine learning AI, but there'll be more of that. You know, yesterday I was on a call with development talking about different use cases of how they can take that underlying technology and expose that through the applications. And that's the same for JDE. So, you know, put Paul or Lyle on the spot from development about what their capabilities will be from the platform this afternoon, but it will come.
Yeah, that's good to hear. What are you doing on the 18th of November this year?
I'm attending an event in the Netherlands.
Correct answer. Do you have?
I look forward to it. The last few events in the Netherlands I've been to, I've sorely missed face-to-face events. I'm more an in-person kind of person. I've really missed them. The events that you guys host are they're far superior than any events across the whole of Europe, and I mean that honestly. I obviously, being from Ireland, I go to a lot of UK events that sometimes tend to be bigger, but actually the buzz and the atmosphere in the Netherlands is always the best, and actually the nighttime entertainment is always fantastic as well.
Well, that's a combination of our Belgian and Netherlands citizens together, Paul. So thank you very much for the compliment. And yeah, we're pretty much looking forward to a physical event ourselves as well, because personally, I agree totally with you. The energy which you have with a group of people and networking, and also hearing and seeing what other people do and doing in their business. I've been to Scherpenhuizen myself as well, visiting Philippe on a SIG event. We did that at other companies. Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't happen last year. But yeah, very much looking forward to meet again in November and start organizing those events again.
We also met...
And sorry, just to remind, OBUG won last year the award for the best run user group. So I forgot to mention that. It was presented in London a year and a half ago. So it was a year before. So congratulations on that. And it was given for a reason. It is a fantastic community that is very vibrant, and I want to be part of that community.
Good to hear. Philip?
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, I also met people from other companies at one of the events, and sometimes we have questions, like JDE related questions, but they have another solution, how they managed. So you just call them, hey, how do you manage this? Or they call us with questions, so you can help each other. So it's a great event. So
it's very good to hear.
Yep.
Final message to the group, Paul?
No, hopefully you have a good event. Hopefully development come along and give you an update. I mean, only yesterday they had a new release of the tools that was announced. So they have lots of innovation that they will present. I've expanded my team, and I have more experts to help our customers plan their futures. So, you need to engage with us. If you're not engaged, please do so. We don't care what your future is. You've got our product. We want to help you get the best out of it. So that's what my team does. The solution engineers, the development people, the architects. So please engage us.
Okay, thanks very much. And hope to see you on the 18th in November, Paul.
You will do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Paul. And good luck with the game tomorrow, Denmark-Belgium.
Oh, don't.
Special game for Ericsson. So
It'll be a special game.
Yeah,
Thank you for the wishes.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed, Paul.
Ja.
Okay, thanks very much. Wat vind jij, Philippe?
Hoe bedoel je?
Ja, van het verhaal wat Paul terugkoppelt en ook het toenemend wat hij aangeeft, de dubbele cijfers van AdWords.
Ja, ik wil het nog zien in onze gemeenschap eigenlijk. En dat is een beetje het grote vraagteken nog, vind ik een beetje. Soms staan we er nog ver af van, hoor allemaal die cijfertjes wel, maar wat zien we zelf als gebruikers, denk ik. Dat is een beetje afwachten hoe dat we dat kunnen waarmaken met onze groep, denk ik.
Ja.
Doorheen de jaren heb ik gemerkt hoe zelf dat wij meer actief zijn, maar ook alle gebruikers erbij betrekken, dat ze echt wel luisteren bij Oracle. Dus het ligt ook een beetje aan ons, denk ik, hoe meer dat we naar ons kunnen krijgen.
Ja.
Dus,
als ik kijk naar de afgelopen jaren, dan zie je, dan zie je altijd een stijgende en dalende tendens van deelname. Het is natuurlijk altijd leuk om deel te nemen aan evenementen. Je moet er soms ook tijd in steken om verhalen of presentaties te geven. Dus dat is ook een oproep aan alle gebruikers die iets te vertellen hebben. Het maakt eigenlijk niet uit wat. Iets over je bedrijf, hoe je AdWords daarin steekt. Dat zijn zaken die we heel erg goed kunnen gebruiken op dat soort evenementen. En ook op zich, zoals jullie in Scherpenhuis hebben gedaan.
Ja.
Ik zie inderdaad vragen binnengekomen. Ja, dubbele cijfers zijn mooi, maar investeren ze dat terug in AdWords? Die hadden we inderdaad even aan Paul kunnen vragen. We gaan hem zeker wellicht eind van de dag stellen.
Ja.
Ik heb zelf wel het idee, ook omdat Oracle gewoon blijft aangeven dat ze continu blijven investeren met een gegarandeerde support voor de komende 10 jaar. Dat wordt wel eens anders genoemd in de markt, met name door concurrenten. Maar ja, je ziet dat ze het elk jaar toch weer doortrekken.
Ja, ik vind wel dat ze altijd wel reageren, dat klopt wel. Voor mij is het allemaal een beetje nieuw, maar ik heb ook nog van Wouter iets gehoord die vorige week een aparte sessie had, die eigenlijk een terugkoppeling van als klant met een upgrade naar 9.2 en die dan eigenlijk met heel ontwikkelteam even feedback kon geven en daar wat dingetjes. En dus hoe meer dat wij laten horen en door deze contacten met die mensen, waar dat ze ook zitten, ze luisteren wel. Als ik ook zie dat de deelnemers voor vanmiddag een paar mensen uit Indië die mee gaan kijken. Dus ze staan echt wel open voor suggesties van ons als klanten, denk ik.
Hoor ik je nou zeggen dat gewoon een van onze klanten hier rechtstreeks contact had met het devteam om terugkoppeling te geven?
Ja, klopt. Dat heb ik per toeval gehoord. Dus, maar dat kan ik zo dadelijk nog wel even doorgeven. Dus, maar dat kan ook via deze organisatie ook. Maar Wouter heeft het gedaan. Die zit natuurlijk ook heel actief, zowel als binnen zijn eigen bedrijf, maar ook voor de hele community eigenlijk.
Ja.
En die heeft in het verleden eigenlijk er ook al voor gezorgd dat er een workorder ledger is gekomen. En dat is eigenlijk allemaal, doordat we allemaal samen op die kar springen.
Ja.
En ik heb het geluk gehad na het organiseren van zo'n SIG dat jullie mij hadden uitgenodigd om als klant ook eens mee naar zo'n etentje waar de dag eigenlijk de vooravond voor. En toen, dan hoor je ook wel het gepush vanuit Nederland of vanuit de OBUG Benelux en al die calls en iedereen springt erop. Ja, ik werd gek gemaakt door mijn baas, want die Wouter is er weer of Philippe is er weer of iemand anders, zeg maar. Hoe zit het ermee? Dus het is echt, die oproep hebben we wel een paar keer gedaan. En misschien dat ik hem hier nu nog eens herhaal van samen kunnen we wel iets bereiken.
Ja. Wat zou bijvoorbeeld de manier zijn om als platform, we hebben het in de voorgaande jaren ook al een paar keer besproken, kijk, Nederland is ten opzichte van Noord-Amerika, daar heb je Quest.
Mm-hmm.
Die organiseren ook heel veel natuurlijk, hebben ook een enorme achterban met alle Noord-Amerikaanse klanten. Als die iets willen, dan is de massa er gelijk. Wat we afgelopen jaren een paar keer hebben gemerkt, dat als wij een service request gewoon loggen bij Oracle Support, En dat ook gewoon verspreiden onder de diverse klanten. Die dat allemaal weer linken aan elkaar. Dat Oracle echt wel een signaal laat horen.
Ja, ik ben ervan overtuigd. En we hebben straks een vragenuurtje. En ik heb er al eentje die we vorig jaar met een webinar... en die we allemaal hebben gesupport. Dus ik wil daar straks ook al gaan vragen wat de status daarvan is.
Ja.
Dus kijk je wat de reactie is. Maar ik denk dat het gaat beamen wat wij allemaal nu zitten te vertellen.
Ja. En we zullen via social media zeg maar de SAR-nummers of wat dan ook communiceren.
Ja, daar kunnen we misschien iets meer of via de site of bepaalde social media... dat we dat meer promoten naar elkaar.
Ja.
We moeten misschien eens uitwerken nadien.
Ja, precies. We hebben de naam Wouter al een paar keer genoemd.
Ja.
Ik weet niet of we al verbinding hebben met Wouter. Misschien kan jij hem alvast kort introduceren. Wouter is verwoede poging aan het doen om zijn camera aan te zetten.
Oké, ik zal het volgende onderwerp even introduceren. Het sluit ook al aan op een onderwerp wat later komt. Wouter is voor de meesten wel bekend, denk ik. Maar toch even, hij is werkzaam bij de burgergroep als applicatiemanager. En ondertussen ook de voortrekker binnen de OBUG-organisatie vooral, waarbij eigenlijk de belangen van ons allemaal verdedigt. Hij wil nu eigenlijk, omdat ze bij burgergroep met de transitie bezig zijn naar 9.2... en daar wil hij een aantal tools tonen aan ons, waar wij ook dan gebruik van kunnen maken. Ook inspelend op het volgende onderwerp eigenlijk, is dat Oracle gaat stoppen met de 32-bit, dat we naar de 64-bit. En dat betekent dat er een aantal businessfuncties en alles moeten aangepast worden. Dus Wouter gaat een presentatie daarover geven, welke tools wij kunnen gebruiken om dat makkelijker te maken, zodat we weten welke businessfuncties moeten aangepast worden. Ja,
dus Wouter zal in eerste instantie aangeven hoe je de voorbereiding kan doen, hoe je kan toewerken naar zo'n upgrade of naar een volgende stap. En daarna zal de sessie volgen met Clayton, die vanuit Oracle de transitie van waarom van 32 naar 64-bit en wat daar de gevolgen en ook de voordelen van zijn.
Ja, klopt.
Nou, we zijn ondertussen nog even in afwachting. Ik zie dat er wat op de chat heen en weer gecommuniceerd wordt tussen de gebruiker en Oracle Nederland. En we hebben ook verbinding met Noord-Holland.
Oké.
Ik weet uit ervaring dat het daar ietsje frisser is dan hier in het warme Rotterdam. Ik ben vanmorgen ook in Noord-Holland wakker geworden en deze kant op gereden. Ja. Wouter, welkom.
Ja, welkom.
Hey,
Wouter.
goeiedag.
Ik heb je net voorgesteld. Goed. Zweten. Ja. Hier in de studio staat de airco nu uit, dus het is extra warm. Je weet wel waarom je niet kwam.
Ja, ik moet het op afstand doen vandaag. Ik had er graag bij willen zijn, maar helaas, het gaat even niet. Maar ik heb wel wat voorbereid om deel te nemen aan deze sessie. Ik weet niet als jullie...
Ik heb jou net even kort geïntroduceerd, Wouter. Dus ook een beetje kort toegelicht waar je over gaat praten. Dus de mensen zijn een beetje op de hoogte. Dus van mij mag jij gewoon starten met je presentatie.
Dan ga ik mijn scherm delen.
Kunnen wij na de afloop van de presentatie shoppen bij je, Wouter? Als ik zo de achtergrond bekijk.
Jazeker, dit zijn allerlei producten die wij maken als burgergroep. Dus je ziet er private labels en burger-eigen merk staan.
Produced and shipped by Burg, powered by JDE Edwards.
Ja, exact. Ik krijg vanuit de sessie te horen dat ik mijn scherm niet mag delen. Dus als de host dat eventjes toe wil staan. Interessant verhaal van Paul. Mooi dat er meer klanten zijn. Welke mogelijkheden zijn er voor die nieuwe klanten om aan te haken bij OBUG?
Ja, kijk, Paul is in principe ook zeg maar verantwoordelijk voor de hele Europese en MEA-regio. Ik weet uit horen zeggen dat nieuwe klanten hoe dan ook altijd geïnformeerd worden over het bestaan van OBUG. En aan ons als user community is het taak om die contacten met Oracle dusdanig te houden dat bij nieuwe klanten, en daar spelen de partners dan ook een rol in, om ze gelijk op de hoogte te brengen van het bestaansrecht ook van OBUG. En dat is verbinden en informeren.
Is er een lage drempel voor hun om een keertje mee te komen kijken?
Absoluut. Zoals net als dit evenement, de meeste evenementen worden met hulp van de AdWords partners. En vandaag is dat naast Oracle, Forza, Quistor, Steltix en Cadran worden de AdWords events in ieder geval altijd goed gesponsord. In die zin dat het mogelijk wordt gemaakt om ook niet-leden van OBUG deel te laten nemen. Dus wij zeggen altijd, join the club. En zorg in ieder geval dat je bij een eerste evenement altijd aanwezig bent. En zodra je ook ziet dat de community werkt. Ja, ook OBUG heeft natuurlijk gewoon zaken zoals dit om te organiseren. En dan stellen we het zeer op prijs als je daarna lid wordt. Maar de drempel is laag.
Ja, zeer laag zou ik zelfs durven zeggen. Want ik ben er zo ingestapt en je zit nu hier. Dus
inderdaad, kijk uit wat je doet. Als je instapt, dan zit je ineens hier aan tafel.
Maar ja, dan zit je ook dicht bij het vuur. Dus dat is alleen maar handig, kan ik uit ervaring zeggen. Inmiddels kan ik mijn scherm delen, dus ik ga aan de gang. Tot straks, jongens.
Ja, succes.
Ja, oké.
Kunnen jullie mijn scherm zien? Zoals gezegd, ik ben werkzaam voor Burgergroep. Wij zijn specialisten in azijnen en siropen. We zijn gesitueerd in 5 landen in Europa. In Nederland, België, Frankrijk, Duitsland en Tsjechië. Mijn naam is Wouter Helsloot. Ik ben daar werkzaam als applicatiemanager voor JDE EdWords. En voor de OBUG ben ik de Special Interest Group Leader voor JDE EdWords. Omdat ik voorzitter ben, heb ik de mogelijkheid gekregen om deel te nemen aan Quest. Aan de Quest Week van afgelopen april. Dat was het evenement voor JDE EdWords in Focus en Vision. Een week lang allerlei presentaties met betrekking tot JDE EdWords. Erg interessant om een keer te zien, deel te nemen. En een van de zaken die ik daar die echt van belang waren voor mij, was dat men zei, aan het einde van 2021 komt er een tools release die niet langer 32-bit componenten ondersteunt. Dus je moet nu een plan gaan maken om de transitie naar 64-bit te realiseren. Omdat dat zo'n belangrijk onderwerp is, als je verder wil met groeien naar tools releases.
Nee, toch? Nee.
Zij
kan ons niet horen.
Nee.
Nou, ik kan jullie vertellen dat ik jullie wel kan horen.
Ja, zie je. Dat dacht ik al. Sorry, Wouter, ga verder.
Nee, geeft niets. Maar omdat het zo'n belangrijk onderwerp is in die week, heb ik gevraagd om de technische architect van Oracle voor JDE EdWords, Clayton Sealy namelijk, heb ik gevraagd om straks daar uitleg over te geven. Ik wilde daar zelf ook een bijdrage aan leveren. En wat eigenlijk van belang is dat hij dat verhaal doet en dat ik dan een aantal tools laat zien die je kunt helpen bij die transitie naar 64-bit. En het is niet alleen dat je ze daarvoor kunt gebruiken, maar je kunt ze in het algemeen gebruiken. En dat heb ik onder het kopje Object Analysis Tools gebundeld. Even kijken.
Dus als ik je goed begrijp, Wouter, dan laat je eigenlijk iets zien wat jij zeg maar, nu gebruikt in voorbereiding voor het verhaal, wat natuurlijk straks gaat volgen van Clayton.
Ja, dat klopt.
Maar wat zeg maar ook nog eens een keer misschien benefits oplevert. Voordelen om die analyses te gebruiken in andere trajecten.
Ja, en het zou logischer zijn als ik dit verhaal vertel nadat Clayton geweest is. Alleen dan lopen we uit in het programma. Qua programmering komt dit even handiger uit. Maar onthoud wat ik hier zeg en neem het mee voor het volgende verhaal.
Ja, duidelijk.
Nou, JDE Edwards is een object-georiënteerde ERP-pakket. En wat wordt daarmee bedoeld? Is eigenlijk dat je een applicatie kan hebben met 200 lines of code. En als je een soortgelijk programma nodig hebt, dan zou je dat voorheen op zo'nzelfde manier gaan maken. En daar voeg je 20 lines of code aan toe in je programmatuur. En dat doet hij net even wat anders dan applicatie A. In het geval van wanneer je een functie gebruikt, dan kun je met applicatie A 50 lines of code, programmatuur, regels toe. En stop je andere 150 lines of code in een functie. Nou, die kun je dan vanuit applicatie B kun je die ook aanroepen, waardoor je niet meer 420 regels code nodig hebt, maar dat je met veel minder efficiënt kunt programmeren. Dus eigenlijk hoe je met objecten omgaat binnen programmeertalen. Nou, een van de tools die je daarbij kunt gebruiken, dat is de cross-reference. Dat is een applicatie waarin je allerlei kruisverwijzingen kunt herkennen. En met die tool kun je zien van deze applicatie roept die functie aan. Of deze applicatie roept dat rapport aan. Deze applicatie gebruikt die tabellen. Enzovoort. Nou, dit heeft betrekking op data-items, applicaties, rapporten, business functies, business views, data structures, tabellen en forms. En als ik er eentje uit mag pakken, dan is het de applicatie linksbovenin. Everywhere a business function or NER is used. Als je daar een functienaam in plaatst, dan vertelt hij jou in welke functies en applicaties en rapporten deze wordt gebruikt. Je ziet in mijn scherm dat er hier standaard applicaties tussen zitten. De 3.1.1.4 voor werkwoorden completions. Maar er zitten ook wat maatwerk applicaties en zelfs ook een rapport tussen. Nou, hoe benader je deze tool? Door gebruik te maken van het vastpad kun je hem terugvinden onder P980011. Maar er is ook een snelcode die XREF, dus de crossref, genoemd wordt. Dit kun je gebruiken vanaf het web of vanaf een vet client. Het is eigenlijk iets wat ontstaan is vanuit de behoefte vanuit een programmeur. Maar hij is ook beschikbaar op de webclient. Standaard wordt die cross-reference leeg opgeleverd. En wat je zult moeten doen, is dat je een versie aanroept van de R980011. En dan kan je dat in stukjes opdelen door hem alleen voor applicaties te laten bouwen of alleen voor UBI's. Maar mijn aanbeveling is dat je hem voor alle objecten opbouwt. En zo zie je dan in de dataselectie een objecttype applicatie, business functies, business views, data structures enzovoorts staan. Er is de mogelijkheid om aan te geven in de processing options voor welke padcode je dit wil laten opbouwen. Je kunt dus een aparte cross-reference bijhouden voor ontwikkelomgeving en eentje voor de productieomgeving. Mijn ervaring leert is dat het alleen in de ontwikkelomgeving gedaan wordt. En als je dit draait, dan merk je dat het een hele lange processtijd heeft. Nou, wat je kunt doen om dat te voorkomen is dat je in de dataselectie een extra regel opneemt. Dat je zegt de date updated. Alles wat later aangepast is dan bijvoorbeeld 1.5.21. Als je dat iedere maand doet, dan heb je een netjes opgebouwde cross-reference ter beschikking. Nou, mocht jij nou als consultant bij een bedrijf binnenkomen, dan kun je kijken of de cross-reference beschikbaar is. En kun je op die manier heel makkelijk herkennen, oké, we hebben hier een functie en dit is het maatwerk wat hier gebruikt wordt. Waarbij deze functie gebruikt wordt. Waar je wel degelijk rekening mee moet houden als je een advies geeft. Als klant zelf ben je meestal wel op de hoogte wat je hebt aangepast en hoe de situatie bij jou in het bedrijf is. Maar het kan wel degelijk zijn dat je in een bedrijf terechtkomt, dat je net aangenomen bent en dat je na een jaar denkt van ja, eigenlijk weet ik niet eens goed hoe die verbanden zitten. Ook dan kun je deze applicatie goed gebruiken om dat te onderzoeken.
Wouter, het is eigenlijk ook een beetje een documentatietool dan eigenlijk.
Ja, klopt. Ik heb hier zo een opmerking bij staan dat die gerund wordt op de VET-client of de web-client. Die is niet juist. Hij wordt gerund op de VET-client. Dus deze UBI moet gerund worden op de VET-client, wil hij dit goed op kunnen bouwen. Dus wanneer jij vanuit de webclient met de cross-reference aan de gang wil gaan en je roept deze applicatie aan, dan zal dat niet werken. Nou, als je dan voor het eerst gaat kijken naar zo'n cross-reference, dan kun je in de batch versions kun je onder de row exit version details kun je rechtsonder in je scherm wat dan opent, kun je dan terugvinden wanneer deze voor het laatst gedraaid is. Dus niet alleen weet je nu waar je die dwarsverbanden kunt vinden, je kan ook zien hoe up-to-date dit is. En dat vind ik de kracht van version details voor batch versions. Ik heb het niet nagekeken, maar volgens mij is dit niet aanwezig voor interactive versions. Het zou in ieder geval niet logisch zijn als dat aanwezig is. Omdat je die niet draait.
Ik zie inderdaad een opmerking voorbij komen, Wouter. Dat een andere ervaring is inderdaad om de cross-reference op te bouwen naar elke release. En dat dus op een aparte VET-client voor CNC specifiek te doen. Zodat je los van je ontwikkelwerk of configuratieactiviteiten dat gewoon netjes kan bijhouden. Dus het wordt inderdaad ook op meerdere vlakken gebruikt.
Ja, vind ik een hele nette manier om dat te doen. Want eigenlijk ieder moment dat je iets aanpast, zou je moeten draaien. Alleen het is ondoenlijk om iedere dag te draaien. Ja. Met een release, een aantal wijzigingen die je naar productie toebrengt, zou een heel goed moment zijn om eventjes de cross-reference bij te werken. Ja, het is maar net hoe je dat inricht.
Ja, duidelijk.
En hoe vaak je het nodig hebt, uiteraard. Ja, dan dan kun je zien hoe de dwarsverbanden lopen. En dan kun je dus ook zien hoe een businessfunctie, waar die aangeroepen wordt. Alleen dan heb je nog niet een idee hoe vaak die aangeroepen wordt. De businessfunctie die mogelijk een aanpassing nodig heeft naar 64-bit bedoel ik. Wat je zou kunnen gebruiken is een andere tool. Dat is de Object Usage Tracking. En deze applicatie, daarin wordt bijgehouden welk object door wie in welke omgeving op welk tijdstip met welke versie aangeroepen is. En voor iedere UBI wordt dat bijgewerkt nadat de UBI klaar is. En voor de applicaties wordt dat volgens mij 1 keer per uur wordt er door de logs die op de server manager gemaakt worden, wordt daar doorheen geakkerd door het programma en wordt er een overzicht gemaakt van wat er dan dat uur gedaan is. Dus voor applicaties is hij een uur oud. En voor rapporten is het eigenlijk zo goed als up-to-date. Mocht er op dit moment nog iets draaien, dan zit dat er nog niet bij. Mocht het klaar zijn, dan zit dat er wel bij. Je ziet hier dat op 12/6/21 dat WHE, Wouter Helsloot, het programma Batch Versions aangeraakt heeft. Ook heeft hij met license plates gewerkt. Is om 8:16 geweest, enzovoorts. Nou, als ik dan inzoom op 4 van deze loggings die gemaakt zijn, dan zie je dat de applicatie P4780 4 keer gebruikt zijn om 8:11, 8:14 en 8:15. Dit wordt wel een heel grote bak met informatie om door te gaan als je hier in detail naar wil kijken. En daarom hebben ze de mogelijkheid om summaries te maken aangebracht. Nou, wat je dan ziet in zo'n summary is dat de P4780 op 12/6 4 keer aangeroepen is. Dus op deze manier kun je op een meer compactere manier naar jouw object usage data kijken.
Wouter, ik zie een vraagje binnenlopen. Er wordt gevraagd of het hier voor een batch moet lopen.
Ja, dat klopt. Ik probeer eerst te laten zien wat het doet en hoe je het kunt gebruiken en daarna hoe je het aanzet en de configuratie. Dus dat komt er nu aan.
Top.
In de Object Usage Setup moet je aangeven voor welke omgeving je dit aan wil zetten. Nou, als je dan zo'n omgeving aangezet hebt, dan kun je voor een row exit kiezen. Dat heet de Object Type Tracking. En daarin kun je aangeven of je het alleen voor applicaties wil doen, alleen voor business functies, alleen voor UBI's of voor een combinatie daarvan. Nou, je kunt hier dus aangeven dat die bijhoudt welke business functies er gebruikt worden door de gebruikers van jouw systeem. Dus al heb je die eerste informatie van de cross-reference, weet je hoe die dwarsverbanden lopen. En hier heb je dus hoe vaak het gebruikt wordt. Nou, dit is nog iets wat ik tegenkwam, waar ik eigenlijk niet eens bewust van was dat we dat hebben. Maar omdat ik gisteren de presentatie in elkaar zette, kwam ik dit toevallig tegen. Zo leer ik ook een aantal dingen.
Zo zie je maar eens wat voor voordelen het kan zijn om voor een usergroep een presentatie te geven. Dan kom je tot eigen inzichten.
Nou, inderdaad. Het is een overzicht van een ESU. Een ESU is een update, een pakketje met objecten die ververst worden, die jouw systeem van bugfixes voorziet, zeg maar. Voordat je die installeert, wil je eigenlijk weten van, ja, als ik die installeer, gaat dat leiden tot problemen? Dus zijn er objecten die ververst worden die wij aangepast hebben? En hoe vaak wordt dat gebruikt? Nou, als je dan kijkt in deze kolom, daar staat de object is customized. Nou, de P070701 is customized bij Burg. Ja, dat is op zich vreemd, omdat het een HRM-applicatie is. En wij HRM niet gebruiken. Als je dan daar naar de usage count kolom kijkt, dan zie je ook dat in al die tijd dat wij bijhouden welke applicaties wij gebruiken, en dat is nu een half jaar ongeveer, zie je dat die in al die tijd niet aangeroepen is. Dus wat ik net al bedacht heb, wordt hier bevestigd. Ja. En dit geeft me een soort garantie dat ik met meer zekerheid een conclusie kan nemen. Het is dus voor mij heel veilig om deze te installeren, want er zijn geen gecustomized objecten die wij gebruiken.
We hebben weer een vraag binnengekregen, Wouter. Wat is het effect op de performance als je die tracking aanzet? Heb je daar een idee van? Of?
Nee. Ik heb geen effecten bijgehouden van performance. Ik heb niet gekeken van hoe performt het voordat ik het aanzet en hoe performt het nadat ik het aan heb gezet. Ik heb vanuit de organisatie geen klachten.
Geen bericht, goed bericht, zeggen we dan. Je geeft net aan dat je hem al een half jaar hebt draaien. Dus als er echt significante veranderingen zijn geweest in performance, dan had je dat al gezien.
Ja.
En misschien leg je dat zo nog uit, want je had het inderdaad over batchverwerking en dat soort zaken. Dat komt misschien zo direct. Dat de logging die toch al draait op de achtergrond, die wordt eigenlijk uitgelezen.
Klopt.
Ja, oké. Dus gaan we verder. Misschien dat de vraag dan later wat duidelijker wordt.
Ja. Nou, al deze programma's die zitten in een menu. En dat menu dat kun je via het fastpad benaderen, GH902. Mocht je nou niet de mogelijkheid hebben voor een fastpad en je wil wel bij deze informatie kunnen komen, dan is het verstandig om in je organisatie te kijken of je het menu kunt uitbreiden om toegang te krijgen tot sommige van deze applicaties. Even kijken. Nou, dan ga ik mooi nat, want dat heb ik niet opgenomen in deze presentatie. In het menu GH902, daar zitten ook een aantal badge applicaties die je draait om een summary te creëren voor de details die al bijgehouden zijn. En wat eigenlijk wel handig is om die gescheduled te laten draaien in de scheduler van AdWords. En dan heb je er geen omkijken naar. Nou, ik heb hier nog een vierde en een vijfde tool. Ik hoor dat jullie al lekker met vragen binnen aan het komen zijn. Dat is helemaal prima. Ik kan overigens de chat niet zien. Dus blijf me interrumperen met vragen. Dat is helemaal goed.
Misschien nog eentje over die object tracking. Want je geeft aan inderdaad, je hebt hem nu een half jaar aanstaan. Heb jij een indicatie hoe snel dat groeit in jullie geval?
Nee, kan ik wel later uitzoeken, maar niet op dit moment. Nee. Wat mijn bedoeling is dat ik hem aan laat staan tijdens de werkzaamheden die wij hebben voorafgaand aan de upgrade die we gaan uitvoeren. En zodra de upgrade geweest is, dan kijk ik niet meer in die data voorlopig. En dan laat ik hem uitstaan in onze geüpgrade versie. Ja. Wij zitten met een systeem met 12 jaar aan customizations. Het is voor ons interessant welke applicaties worden er nog wel gebruikt en welke applicaties worden er nog niet gebruikt. En omdat we 12 jaar aan customizations hebben en ik nog maar 8 jaar bij Burg werk, ken ik sommige niet. Dus het is voor mij een ideale tool om te zien van oké, we hebben hier dus een customization zitten, maar hij wordt helemaal niet meer gebruikt. Oké, dan laat dan maar zitten om te retrofitten.
Ja, duidelijk.
Met het gevaar dat iemand iets mist, maar dat hoor je dan vanzelf wel.
Ja. Ik zie overigens nog een toevoeging van een landgenoot van Philippe.
Ja, vanuit Oracle. Dus mensen kijken mee en geven nog een tip mee. Er staat een whitepaper op learngde.com. Object Usage Tracking, Performance Characterization. En dit zou wel een inzicht geven. Ik weet niet of de mensen de chat ook zien. Maar
als het goed is, hebben ze hem heel even zichtbaar in het scherm. En anders zorgen wij ervoor dat het getoond wordt op een of ander.
Ja.
Ga verder, Wouter.
Oké. Ja, een volgende tool die ik gebruik tijdens mijn werkzaamheden is... ik weet hoe die dwarsverbanden zijn. Ik weet of een applicatie veel gebruikt wordt. Maar sommige applicaties zijn ook applicaties die je 1 keer per jaar draait. Ja, die vallen dan net even buiten mijn half jaar. Mogelijk. Dus daar heb ik wel een soort risicogebiedje zitten. Nou, als we dat soort applicaties toch willen zien, dan maak ik gebruik van een tool die heet Search for Task Views. En wat je daarin kunt doen is dat je het menu van jouw organisatie kunt uitpluizen. Ik heb hier een task view voor burgergroep. Die open ik en dan selecteer ik view by task. Ik kan ook view by role kiezen. Maar dan geeft hij alleen de toegang van die rol binnen jouw menu burgergroep. Maar in dit geval ga ik naar view by task en dan krijg ik het hele menu te zien. Nou, als je dat doet, dan zie je hier in lagen welke menustructuur je hebt. Dus je hebt het hoofdmenu, vervolgens een laag eronder, een laag eronder. Dan heb je hier taken binnen het submenu Job Scheduler. Nou, er hoort deze applicatie bij, die versie. En wordt die blind gedraaid of wordt de dataselectie en processing options getoond. En vervolgens welke rollen hebben hier toegang toe. Nou, er zitten 20 kolommen hier zo achter. Heb jij 21 rollen die toegang hebben tot zo'n taak, dan wordt die niet getoond.
Helemaal dus niet? Of alleen de 21ste niet?
De 21ste wordt niet getoond als zijnde rechthebbende op die menuoptie. Ja. Je ziet dus wel dat die veel gebruikt wordt door veel rollen. En als er dan de 20ste in gebruik is, ja, dan is het verstandig om nog even verder onderzoek te doen. Maar dat is de limitation van deze applicatie. Wat ik hier eigenlijk altijd doe, is dat ik een export maak naar Excel. En vervolgens doe ik een find opdracht. En ik zoek naar de applicatie waar ik benieuwd naar ben. Of die in het menu zit. En dat geeft mij wel een gevoel van, we gebruiken hem echt niet. Of hij staat wel in het menu. Dus er moet nog iemand iets van af weten. En dan kan ik altijd navragen bij de mensen die rol hebben. Van, wat doen jullie ermee? Nou, dat is iets wat we altijd in november doen. Omdat dan de aangifte van weet ik veel wat is. Dit is benaderbaar via het vastpad, via applicatie P01 RS01 en dan de versie JDE 001 0001. En volgens mij moet je de versie meegeven, wil je in het juiste uitkomen.
Je bent helderziend, Wouter, want er kwam net een vraag binnen waar je deze applicatie kan vinden.
Ja, het is onderdeel van de Rapid Start applicaties die bedoeld zijn als jij een implementatie begint. Dat je dan van een aantal programma's gebruik kunt maken. Maar eigenlijk nadat je begonnen bent, vind ik het een hele vriendelijke manier om even snel in het menu te kijken. Wat zit waar en wie heeft daar recht op.
Dan geef je zelf aan dat waarschijnlijk bij jullie de Rapid Start dan misschien geïnstalleerd is. Dat is misschien een vraag die een klant, als hij het programma niet kan vinden, bij zijn partner kan stellen of bij Oracle. Van waar kan ik deze applicatie downloaden? Want uiteindelijk is het gewoon een applicatie binnen de toolset van AppsUnlimited die gewoon meegeleverd kan worden. Dus die zal op de een of andere manier wel te installeren zijn.
Klopt. We hebben net een 9.2 installatie gedaan. Daar is hij in meegeleverd. Ik weet niet of de implementatiepartner dat specifiek heeft gedownload. Bij ons stond hij er standaard in.
Ja, duidelijk.
Dus al heb je de goede implementatiepartner. Dat is ook weer flauw om te zeggen.
Dat mag wel, dat mag.
Mocht je hem niet hebben, vraag het je implementatiepartner even of ze hem alsnog willen installeren. Nou, dan komen we op version reporting. En in version reporting heb je de mogelijkheid om een rapport te draaien. En dat rapportje dat kun je zo inrichten dat er een Excel-document eigenlijk een CSV-file opgeleverd wordt. Het is de UBR01 RS005. En wij hebben daar dan een versie in gemaakt, de POC 001. Geef het een naampje. Maar daar heb ik een standaard dataselectie in staan. Dat voor mij makkelijk is om hem opnieuw te gebruiken. In die dataselectie heb ik het programmanaam welke ik wil gebruiken aangegeven. Dus ik heb hier aangegeven dat ik de versies van applicatie R42565 wil tonen. En R42565 is een rapport wat sales order print en wat eigenlijk best wel veel processing options heeft. En als je daar nou een heel aantal versies van hebt, eentje voor een normale invoice te printen, eentje voor een reprint, eentje voor EDI. En zo kan je best wel een groot aantal versies krijgen. Als je dat ook nog eens vermenigvuldigt met het aantal fabrieken die je hebt. Of sales order organisaties die je hebt. Als je dan in de processing options kijkt, dan zie je daar als eerste waar moet hij de data naartoe schrijven. Dan geef je een map op je netwerk op. En vervolgens kun je hem nog een bepaalde naam geven. Als je hem leeg laat, dan heet de CSV-file R42565.csv.
Lekker makkelijk.
Ja, goed, misschien heb je er al een staan en wil je die niet overschrijven. Dan kun je hem een andere naam geven. Ja. Nou, wat komt daar dan uit? Er komt een CSV-file uit. En als je dan via het menu data in Excel de optie text to columns gebruikt, dan kun je op basis van je delimiter, van je scheidingsteken, komma, kun je dus een overzichtje krijgen van al jouw processing options in jouw versies. Nou, je ziet bij ons hebben we een vestiging Burgerzijn. Ja, die heeft al een heel aantal verschillende versies van het sales order printmenu. Nou, en die hebben we dus ook voor andere vestigingen. En op deze manier kan ik vrij snel door al die versies heen bladeren om te zien van hier zit een verschil. Dat klopt of dat klopt juist niet. Ook deze is te benaderen via het fastpad met P01 RS01 en dan de JDE 001 versie. Omdat ik alleen die laatste in het fastpad onthoud, kan ik 2 applicaties gebruiken.
Duidelijk.
Ja, dat was mijn presentatie voor vandaag.
Wat
Dus
je eigenlijk, als ik het een beetje mag summeren wat jou betreft, Wouter. Wat je eigenlijk zegt is, als je kijkt naar zeg maar de hele aanloop naar een update of naar een totale review van je systeem, heb je eigenlijk gewoon standaard out of the box binnen AdWords. Je geeft aan 5 verschillende mogelijkheden, waarbij je en eigenlijk vanuit de coding alle relaties kan bepalen met je cross-reference. Je kan checken met de Object Usage Tracking om te zien van wat wordt er nou eigenlijk gebruikt en wanneer en hoe vaak en door welke gebruikers. Je ziet execution details van programma's die zijn opgestart. Je hebt een task view waarbij je normaal gesproken als je door je hele menu heen klikt hoeveel niveaus je wel niet door kan. Maar je kan in ieder geval iets genereren wat het veel makkelijker zoekbaar maakt. En waarbij je eigenlijk vrij snel ziet van deze applicatie staat op het menu. Dus die kan gebruikt worden. En als laatste ook nog eens een keer als je situaties hebt waarbij je heel veel versies hebt van batch reporting. Dat je die eigenlijk vrij makkelijk uit het systeem kan krijgen om daar een vergelijking in te krijgen. Ja,
ik heb die laatste, om eerst je vraag te beantwoorden. Ja, klopt helemaal.
Gelukkig. Goed
opgelet. Als tweede, die laatste applicatie met die versies. Ik heb die laatst nog gebruikt om alle processing options van een applicatie te exporteren vanuit 9.1 en dat ook te doen vanuit 9.2. Want op het moment dat je een aangepast object in 9.1 hebt en je gaat in 9.2 hetzelfde object gebruiken, dan kan het zijn dat jouw processing options die je gecustomized hebt in 9.1 verkeerd overgezet zijn in 9.2. Ja. Dat de waarden die in jouw custom processing options zaten, dat die opeens in een standaard processing option opduiken. Dat ligt eraan hoe je dat tijdens de conversie doet. Maar wij zagen daar een verschil. En dit was een applicatie waarmee we heel snel 2 keer een export konden doen. En vervolgens een vergelijk op deze processing options konden doen. En eigenlijk binnen 5 minuten wisten waar de verschillen zaten. Ja. In plaats van dat je iedere versie open moet klikken, 2 schermen open. Je kent het wel.
Ja, de ene versie op de ene omgeving op de ene scherm en de andere omgeving op het andere scherm. En dan visueel proberen te controleren. Na 2 taps dan ben je het al kwijt waarschijnlijk. Ja. Is het herkenbaar voor jullie?
Het is herkenbaar. Zeker wat Wouter toen straks zei. Bij verkoop heb je er heel veel. Dus als je ze allemaal, soms moet je je scherm nog eens groter maken om ze helemaal boven water te krijgen. Dus het toeltje is dan lekker handig. Ja.
En de grap is, ik heb voor wat Wouter als voorbeeld neemt, de badge, de 42565. Ik heb wel eens een andere partij voor output proberen uit te leggen dat 1 applicatie 5 verschillende vormen kan hebben. Dus inderdaad invoice, reprint, quote, proforma, credit, et cetera. Ja. Dat geeft al aan hoe configurabel AdWords is. Ja. En dat is een enorm voordeel. Maar in dit soort gevallen zul je ook gewoon wat extra controlewerk moeten doen.
En zelfs ook al tussen de verschillende omgevingen. Als je met een paar key users of sommigen spelen met de process options of die probeert het ook wel eens afhankelijk van de functie. En dan ineens werkt er iets niet meer en dat soort zaken. Is het soms ook wel eens tussentijds handig om daar al naar te kijken. Ja, wij kijken er als gebruiker, in mijn functie kijk ik naar eerst al daarna, is daar al iets aan gewijzigd of niet.
Ja.
Dus,
Wouter, je hebt de verschillende tools gebruikt. Nou weet ik dat bijvoorbeeld die usage tracking, dat die vereist wel een bepaald niveau. De opmerking werd ook al eerder gemaakt door Martin Verheem van Oracle, refererend aan learnjde.com. Daar is echt heel veel terug te vinden. Ook zeg maar voor bepaalde releases. Want die de object usage tracking, die vereist wel een bepaalde toolsniveau, hè?
Ja. Maar daar zitten wij al een tijdje op.
Ja,
dus
daar zitten jullie al op. Maar voor de rest...
Ik ben uit het oog verloren welk niveau je moet hebben.
Ja, als ik het uit mijn hoofd doe, dan is het 9, 2, 2, 4. Maar er zijn tegenwoordig zoveel getalletjes achter de punt dat het echt... je moet het even checken. En dat kun je inderdaad op die learnjde.com doen. Want dan heb je in ieder geval zicht op van... waarom werkt het niet bij mij? Ja, dat vereist voor dat stuk in ieder geval een bepaalde tools release. Die wel weer compatible is met eerdere apps releases, zoals 9.1 bijvoorbeeld. Ik zag nog iets...
er komt nog iets binnen. Er is nog een tooltje, wordt er ingefluisterd. Virgin Workbench, which enables more as well. Maar hij zegt hij zo even niks. Ik weet niet of hij jou iets zegt.
Ja, ik ken hem wel. Het is een tool die Steltex gebruikt bij implementaties. Eigenlijk, gedurende het implementeren kunnen ze daar heel makkelijk versies mee kopiëren, inrichten. En dat je eigenlijk in plaats van dat je iedere versie openklikt en er een waarde in een veld tikt, die gevalideerd wordt door AdWords. Dat ze eigenlijk via een achterkant een soort een import of hoe noem je dat? Dat je een waarde in kunt vullen en dat je dat voor meerdere versies tegelijkertijd door kunt voeren. In plaats van 1 versie per versie.
Is dat een specifieke tool van Steltex of is dat een algemene tool?
Dat is een specifieke tool van Steltex. Ik heb daar 1 keer mee gewerkt. Dus ik weet er niet genoeg van om een advies te geven van hij is top of wat minder. Wanneer je aan het implementeren bent en heel veel versies nodig hebt, dan is zo'n tool wel heel handig. Ja. Ik weet niet of er meer zijn, ik weet niet of er meer op de markt is. Zou jij dat zo kunnen zeggen, heren?
Nou, niet specifiek. Kijk, er zijn natuurlijk altijd specifieke situaties met als je heel veel rollouts hebt of je hebt heel veel companies te beheren, de manier hoe je je security hebt opgezet, als dat al vereist dat je meerdere versies gaat definiëren, dan zal een extra tool, en Wouter geeft, een andere Wouter in dit geval, geeft het al aan dat het inderdaad in hun situatie perfect werkt en tijd bespaart. Ja, dan helpt dat. Dus ja, ik ken voor de rest de workbench niet. Er zullen meerdere oplossingen zijn. Dat
misschien iets voor een eventje of zo.
Ja, wellicht inderdaad een mooie user presentatie voor 18 november. Dus dan nodig ik graag iemand uit om dat vanuit de klantperspectief gewoon eens te vertellen hoe ze daarmee omgaan.
Ik heb zelf getracht in deze presentatie alleen de standaard tools te benaderen, zeg maar.
Ja, heel goed.
Omdat het maakt niet uit bij welke klant je als consultant binnenstapt of welke organisatie je werkt. Je hebt al deze tools voorhanden.
Ja.
Je moet het alleen even weten.
Ja, duidelijk. Waar ik nog nieuwsgierig naar ben, Wouter. Je hebt aangegeven hoe jullie ermee omgegaan zijn. Wat heeft het je nou zeg maar opgeleverd in tijd of in zeg maar tracking van dingen die je hebt aangepast? Heb je daar een beeld bij?
Ik denk dat zeg maar... je maakt een inschatting van wat zijn de applicaties die van belang zijn. Die over moeten naar de volgende geüpgrade versie. Mm-hmm. En omdat je dus in kaart hebt wat niet van belang is, bespaar je tijd omdat je daar geen aandacht aan besteedt.
En heb jij een duidelijk beeld met wat je zeg maar achter hebt kunnen laten of niet meer hebt hoeven aanpassen?
Nee, zover heb ik nog niet teruggekeken. We gaan over 2 weken gaan we live met 9.2.
Nou, zit je er redelijk ontspannen bij?
Ja, gaat goed hè? zo vanuit de supermarkt. Ja. Zodra ik wat meer rust in de tent heb, dan kan ik ook wat evalueren en daarvan leren.
Ja, en het is duidelijk inderdaad, de strategie van Simplified Upgrade is inderdaad om te zorgen dat hoe dichter je bij de standaard blijft, hoe sneller met dit soort tools je ook kan zien van er is geen aanpassingen, we kunnen hem in principe gewoon doorzetten. Dat natuurlijk de toekomstige updates ook steeds sneller mogelijk maakt. Dus in die zin is het een mooie strategie. Ik zie nog wat vragen. Wil jij ze nog langslopen, Filip?
Ja, eentje was gewoon dat ze bij Van der Landen de tool gebruiken en opties en selecties mee kan vergelijken.
Ja.
Dan wordt er nog gesuggereerd Object Browser en JDE Trace heb ik vaak gebruikt. Ik weet niet of dat al vermeld is.
Zijn
niet vermeld. Maar...
Zijn volgens mij ook third-party tools.
Ja, ik ken ze beide. Volgens mij van Pastoronov inderdaad. Uit mijn hoofd is dat een Australische partij. Overigens wel erg goed, maar inderdaad een derde partij applicatie.
Ja. En dan zie ik nog iets van Martin van Oracle. Ik zou zeggen first time right.
Ja.
Efficiënter en meer kwaliteit.
Nou, daar kunnen we mee terugkomen, toch?
Ja.
Richting Oracle.
En die third-party tool die net is gesuggereerd van Australië, klopt en het is gratis. Dus ook wel handig.
Dat is niet onbelangrijk.
En dat komt uit België, niet uit Nederland, die opmerking.
Helemaal goed. Gert, dankjewel. Wouter, ik weet niet of je het gehoord hebt wat Paul aankondigde, maar ook dankzij jouw effort, zeg maar 1,5 jaar geleden op ons event, het is toch doorgekomen dat we de award hebben gewonnen van Best Organized Event. Dat werd al een soort mystiek verhaal. Maar hij is nu...
Is dat echt verteld?
Het is echt verteld, dus we hebben hem nu op beeld.
Het is opgenomen.
Dus,
weet je wat grappig is? Ik mag inloggen om deel te nemen. En ik heb het net gemist.
Ja, dat dacht ik al. Dus daarom dacht ik zal hem hier nog even terugkomen. Want mede dankzij jouw effort is ons dat ook gelukt. En je begon in je verhaal al dat je eigenlijk door vorig jaar het contact te hebben... en afgelopen jaar natuurlijk ook het verhaal van Clayton, wat we zo direct gaan horen... dat je daar graag op wilde aansluiten. Nou, gezien de timing, dat was of jij in de avond werken of Clayton vroeg in de ochtend. Maar goed, we hebben het nu een beetje omgedraaid. Heb je in ieder geval een duidelijk verhaal verteld hoe je het hebt aangevlogen. Aan de kapstok in het geval van de transitie van 32 naar 64 bit. Ja, dat verhaal dat gaan we zo direct volgen. Ik wou je heel erg hartelijk danken voor jouw inzet nu. En hopelijk ook in de nabije toekomst. We gaan elkaar zeker spreken. Heel veel succes over 2 weken met de upgrade. En het zou een mooi verhaal zijn om straks in november te presenteren. Of in de wandelgangen in de netwerken met Filip samen te bomen over hoe dat is gegaan.
Ja, zeker.
Ja, dankjewel. Ik vind het leuk om erover te vertellen. Maar ik vind het ook leuk om andere verhalen te horen. Dus ik nodig iedereen uit die in deze call zit om in ieder geval een verhaal mee te nemen. En dat we dan een mooi nieuw evenement kunnen gaan neerzetten.
Ja, en voor de duidelijkheid, Wouter, we praten natuurlijk over de update-event in november. Daar hebben we dan de mogelijkheid voor klantenpresentaties. Daarnaast is er altijd de mogelijkheid, en dat proberen we, tenminste dat deden we natuurlijk voor COVID 3 of 4 keer per jaar, om op locatie een gemeenschappelijk onderwerp te behandelen en dan je bedrijf te laten zien. Daarbij spelen natuurlijk altijd zaken met dat je misschien niet de concurrent over de vloer wil, maar tot op heden hebben we daar nooit een issue mee gehad en is dat altijd in goede banen geleid. Dus zeker inderdaad de uitnodiging naar iedereen. Mocht je zo'n verhaal willen en ook kunnen vertellen en je hebt de contactgegevens van Wouter, Philippe of mijzelf, dan is dat lijntje snel gelegd. Anders kun je hem altijd sturen naar obug@theoraclecommunity.eu en dan komt hij gewoon bij ons centraal binnen. Wouter, dank voor je tijd. Ik weet niet hoe het met de rest is, maar wij hebben wel even tijd voor een break, voor even een verfrissing. Ik neem aan dat iedereen aandachtig aan de sessie heeft deelgenomen. Dus nu even zijn mail wil checken. Wij gaan er heel even uit en dan sharp om 3 uur dan starten we de volgende sessie. En dan hopen we jullie graag weer te zien. Tot over een paar minuten. Nou, welkom terug. Philippe, dat was even een verfrissende break, hè?
Ja, ik wou een flesje water over mij kappen.
Ja. Bijna een koude douche, maar dat redden we niet in 8 minuten. Nee. Dus, volgende spreker is Clayton Zielen. Clayton, very welcome. It's early in the morning, I heard from you, but the degrees is a little bit higher than here, you told me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's warm
over here. Yeah.
It's warm at your place as well.
Yep.
Last hour, we got a presentation from Wouter Helsloot, very familiar to you. He was inspired by your presentation earlier this year about the transition from 32 to 64-bit. He explained the audience that how you can use different tools within JDE Address to prepare. And he already introduced you as a speaker about the transition of the 32 to 64-bit and the why and what's the benefit and the reason, etc. So I will say the floor is yours. And if any of the audience has questions, we'll see it in the chat. And if it's okay with you, I will then find a moment to ask the question.
Yeah, it sounds good. Interrupt me anytime you can. So thank you for having me. I am Clayton Seeley. I'm one of our Oracle JD Edwards product managers and architects, and I've been at the Oracle Peoplesoft JD Edwards for going into my 24th year now. So I've been doing this a lot, and a lot of different roles, again, currently as a product manager. And one of my main projects that we worked on over the past several years was getting JD Edwards to become 64-bit, which was not an easy thing to do. And since it was not easy for us to do, it's definitely something that we're wanting to make sure customers can transition to 64-bit as easily as possible. So I'm going to go through my slide deck here, which we've gotten good reviews on. We've been doing this for many years, as I'll show you in our timeline. But as always, here's our safe harbor statement, which says that anything I say can and may change, but we have completed our 64-bit project, so there's very little that I will be talking about future here. Mostly I want to make sure that we'll go over the business drivers again, why it is important for you as customers to get the 64-bit. And then I will go through at a high level some of the technical changes of what's happened to JD Edwards in order to make it 64-bit. Mm-hmm. And then some of the bigger things will be some common issues that we're seeing with customers as they consider to go to 64-bit, and what that project may look like for you. And then we'll talk about, again, some roadmap, which will be very small. So go through here. Again, the business drivers, hopefully you guys have seen it, but it is a big decision. Very, very much like the Matrix. Do you want the blue pill, or do you want to stay go with the red pill and move to 64-bit and stay in the future? So that's what we've equated it to. But that red pill is going to become very, very important, as you can see here with some of our drivers. So at first, we definitely gave you control and choice over when you wanted to go to 64-bit. JD Edwards has been enabled since the tools released 9.2.3, which is about 2.5 years old now. So for 2.5 years, we've given you the choice of when you want to go 64-bit. Mm-hmm. But even if you choose to go 64-bit, it's very important that we make it so that it is a seamless rollout. You have 32-bit in your system for production. You apply 64-bit to development, and you work its way up through the development life cycle, just like everything else that you do. So it's very, very easily and seamless for you to be able to transition to 64-bit and validate and test that your system is working. There is no impact to business process or data. All of the logic is exactly the same. There's no changes to data, unlike another massive migration like Unicode. If you've gone through that before, that was a huge impact to data. This has absolutely no impact to data or the business process itself. And really, we wanted to, it's all done at the logic layer. So it's all done at your enterprise server, your development clients. Those are the key pieces that were not already 64-bit, and we need you to migrate to 64-bit in order to be able to maintain that your architecture, your JD Edwards investment is future-proof for the future, so that you can continue to leverage things like security patches from Oracle, from Java, from all the other vendors itself. So there's a lot of different reasons to continue and migrate to 64-bit, because 32-bit is a dying architecture, as we'll see. So as mentioned, the main driver behind getting to 64-bit is definitely external. So JD Edwards itself runs, again, exactly the same under 32-bit versus 64-bit. But some of the many pieces that we leverage for 64, that for JD Edwards, like Java, has immediate plans to stop supporting 32-bit. And so these are very real problems that you want to avoid in order to maintain complete support for anything that you're running your business on, especially Java. Java is really important because there are obviously a number of security holes that are identified almost every single year. And if you do not maintain support for Java, in particular, you will probably be exploited security-wise, and we want to make sure that that's not going to be a problem for you guys. Yeah. So that's probably the main reason. Now, one important part is WebLogic. WebLogic is another feature. When we talk about WebLogic, it's also just essentially Java. WebLogic stops supporting 32-bit with its current supported version of 12.2.1.3 and .4. So there's no 32-bit JDK support for WebLogic. So if you're running anything against a web service, an application server like WebLogic, then you need to make sure that it's on 64-bit, and we can move forward that way together.
Okay. Clayton, there's already a question. Maybe you answer it later on, but the question is, what happens if you deploy objects from 64 to 32, so backwards?
Yeah, so the truth is that again, we've planned for this. So we expect you to have dual support within your system. And in order to do that, we actually had to choose one of them. And I will get into this a little bit as far as how the deployment works in a technical manner, but the answer is we actually treat 32-bit as the source of truth. So until you've gone completely 64-bit, 32-bit remains in your system as the source of truth. And then we have what's called a code converter, which will convert everything to 64-bit automatically. So that is how we maintain both bitnesses through the system. And I will get in and show you how that works. Yep. All right, so 64-bit again was released with 9.2.3. 9.2.3 was not a supported tools release for applications 9.0. It was for 9.1. So if you are a 9.1 customer, you were able to take the tools release 9.2.3, but we do not provide the 64-bit component. We do not allow you to apply 64-bit component for your enterprise server or for your development client on that tools release. It would force you to stay 32-bit. So 64-bit is only available for you 9.2 customers. Again, we made that conscious decision because 9.0 was already off of support. 9.1 was quickly approaching the end of support life, and 9.2 is, of course, our solution for JDE Edwards moving forward. It's our perpetual release, so we only maintain 64-bit support in 9.2. And then our next slide. One of the things that we did was we ran through an extensive partner beta program. So while we've had it released for 3.5 years now, we've actually had 64-bit available for over 4. And that's because we provided an early beta for many of our partners out there to go through and verify that they have 64-bit solutions that would accommodate your bolt-on solutions that you run JDE Edwards with. And of course, this is very important to almost everybody has one of these out there, I'm sure. So we had the largest beta program that we've ever had for 64-bit so that our partners could get their hands on it, go through the code converter, validate their solution. And even this year, we are having all of our partners revalidate any Oracle validated solution by the end of June this year. So really quickly on 64-bit, and that'll be republished on the Oracle validated network on OPN. I mentioned the timeline. So this is what I drive most of my presentations off of, which is, what have we changed since 9.2? And 9.2 went GA in 2015. Obviously, that was not a 64-bit release. We did not provide 64-bit until 2017, which was, again, 4 years ago for our partners. And then our first GA release was in 2018 with 9.2.3. At that time, we only provided support for 3 different enterprise servers: the Linux enterprise server, the Windows enterprise server, and the i-series. We also provided support for the development client, and then we updated something in Server Manager to make it easier for you to do multi-foundation. Again, getting kind of technical, we'll get into what some of these projects meant, but the full support for 64-bit came with 9.2.4 in 2019, where we closed the door and provided support for the deployment server, and we provided some tools to make it easier for you to make the entire system 64-bit at that time. And then finally, with in last year, 2020, we finished up all of our enterprise server versions for AIX and Solaris and HPUX. Those are our minor platforms. They're not as popular as the others, but again, this is our go forward strategy. So we have all of our complete platforms supported for 64-bit now. Getting into the project, so again, we wanted to make sure that it was easy as possible for you to migrate to 64-bit, and we also wanted to make sure it was optional for you. And then, as we mentioned in the question, we want to provide dual bitness support. So the idea is again to allow you to migrate or test up and promote your 64-bit across your development lifecycle, whatever that is. So obviously we encourage the 4-path code strategy, but most of our customers have way more than that. It doesn't matter what you do, whatever your development lifecycle is, we support that. And no matter what, we're always watching out to keep it easy on you guys. So it's always a tug of war to add in complexity or to make it, and obviously to make it simple for the customer. So this is why the project took a significant amount of time, was because we do try and keep things easy for you and not change things any more than we absolutely have to. So when we look at what has absolutely changed, Not a lot. 64-bit has been in place for the operating systems, the databases you run, Java for WebLogic and so forth. So if you're running your HTML server or AIS server, even business services, all of those run 64-bit today. So the main components that we had to change were on the logic layer, at the enterprise server, the development clients, and the deployment server. All of the C code has to go through a change as well. But again, that's part of the logic that runs for the enterprise server. Okay. So there's not a lot of, I'd say about half, half of the entire JD Edwards infrastructure needed to change or be updated from 32-bit to 64-bit.
So just in one slide with 4 bullets, you mentioned half of the system.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like half of the system, but it's obviously the core of your system. It's where it's where the business actually physically runs. So that's why it's very important. Yep. Okay, so the JD Edwards solution, we've taken advantage of a couple of other building block projects that we had. One of them was files to the database. Files to the database enabled all of your objects to be put into the database instead of the file system. And this enables us to have the 2 artifacts together, the 32-bit artifact and the 64-bit artifact. And then when we have the artifact in one record, that allows us to be able to provide a migration path for all your server types and all of your path codes. Now, we found that it was going to be a lot easier if we leveraged multi-foundation. Not every customer is able to, that has an idea of what multi-foundation is. So if you don't understand multi-foundation, I implore you to go and look that up on learnjde.com or reach out to your partner, because your implementation partner would be able to help you set up multi-foundation. But it is critical to be able to run 64 and 32-bit at the same time, especially on your deployment server, and to maintain dual bitnesses. From the standpoint of dual bitnesses, we had to choose a common ground, and that common ground is definitely going to be 32-bit. The least common denominator, or what we call the source of truth, is going to be 32-bit until you've completely converted everything up to 64-bit. That means all of your path codes, all of your servers, and you're ready to remove 32-bit out of your system. That means 32-bit will be the source of truth. We run a code converter, which is a Windows application, and that code converter will go through and chain and completely create all of your 32-bit artifacts into 64-bit artifacts. That includes all JD Edwards standard code, all of your customized code, and all of your custom code. So that is one question that we get asked a lot, is what happens to your custom code that you have created, all of your custom business functions? The answer is those should transfer directly through the code converter into 64-bit as well. We have a cookbook that's been created. It's a technical reference paper, which is available on learnjde.com, which will give you code recommendations to ensure that the code converter is successful. But there's no reason that all of your custom code should not easily convert to 64-bit very easily. Now, if you are on 9.2, we did have over 300 business functions that we had to update. And those are very simple updates. They were updated in 32-bit, and they were updated in 32-bit in a way that would make it so our business functions would go through the code converter successfully. That's all they were. There are no changes in logic. It's just simple tweaking of the code to make it so that the code would go through the code converter successfully. And then we'll get into the release fag in a little bit. That's where we are finally say that we are completely done with 32-bit. We only want to be a 64-bit system, and that turns things back into normal for you guys. Makes it so that the architecture only has 1 bitness, and makes it so that you do not have to have multi-foundation, and puts performance back in line as far as for package build is concerned. So there's quite a few things that we really consider with the solution. Again, if we take a look at what happens with a typical tools release, there's very little change. So with a normal tools release, you'll go through and you'll update your third-party systems like your JRE and your WebLogic, and then you'll update our components. And because this component server manager is already running a 64-bit. We didn't need to, there's no change there. The changes are definitely down here on the deployment server, where we have to apply a multi-foundation and be able to put down 2 different tools releases, one for 32, one for 64. We have to apply the business functions I mentioned that needed to get updated from JD Edwards, about 300 of them. And then we have this special migration tool, which flips the deployment server from 32-bit to 64-bit automatically for you. And then if we look at the rest of the web server, the rest of servers, it's very straightforward again. The components you deployed to the enterprise server are 64-bit components instead of 32-bit components, so there's really no difference. And the same thing with your development client. You deploy a 64-bit package instead of a 32-bit package. This is what we kind of like to show as a day in the life of a multi-foundation. So if you don't understand multi-foundation, that's okay. This hopefully will explain it a little bit. What we have is 2 different foundations, thus the multi on the deployment server. And each of these can build packages against it and run the deployment server and then deployed out to your development clients. Now, these are your enterprise servers, and each one of these, hopefully, multi-foundation is easier if you have 2 different enterprise servers. And that way you can run off the exact same port. They're just 2 different physical or logical virtual machines. That way they can run off the same port. But if you have it all in the same machine, if you have it all in the same physical machine, like a really large I-series, then you could run off of multiple ports here. And that's where we come into a bit of a complexity with multi-foundation, but it's completely manageable. So what will happen is you will build 2 packages. You'll build one for 32-bit. This is for development purposes as we're rolling out. This could be for any path code, but we're doing this as development in this example. We'll build a 32-bit. It'll deploy. We'll also build it against our 32-bit enterprise server, and it will be deployed to our 32-bit development client. Same thing for 64-bit. Gets built against our 64-bit enterprise server and deployed to our 64-bit development client. So this is what we mean by having multiple foundations on a single deployment server. And if we show it on the same enterprise server, again, this is a little bit, a slightly different concept, but the only change here is that you have different ports running on your different enterprise server for whichever system or foundation you are running. So the development clients are exactly the same, and the build packages is exactly the same. It's just whether you have which port you're actually running on for your enterprise server.
Clayton, I think our audience do like your pictures, because the question came in, can we get a copy of this presentation?
Oh yeah, so, absolutely.
We'll make sure to the audience that we'll get the presentation from Clayton and publish it on the OBUG channels.
Yep, no problem. We'll work that out. So multi-foundation has been in existence for a really long time. And again, I felt like it was one of the easiest ways to be able to enable customers to roll out their 64-bit in a staged manner. And even though it's been around for a really long time, it's a very manual setup process. So there's a lot of things that, again, an experienced consultant, an experienced administrator understands how to do, but I wanted to turn that into an easier experience, and therefore we made a change to server managers so that administrators can automatically set up a multi-foundation on the deployment server, which is the critical piece, as I just showed, towards building your packages and providing multiple foundations to however your system is set up. So within Server Manager, we automatically allow you to have the ability to set up the multi-foundation or change the component in a slightly different way as of 9.2.3 and above. And so this has been released for, again, 3 years now, but it's been pretty effective and very useful way to automate what used to be a very manual process. When 9.2.4 came about, that's when we decided that this deployment server would be available to go 64-bit. Again, it's a choice. You do not have to make your deployment server go 64-bit at this time with 9.2.4. But if you do, then there are some additional steps you did have to take, like running the special migration tool. And then your default foundation will be 64-bit. You can still run 32-bit as your multi-foundation. It's just flipping the script So it's making it so that instead of having 64-bit be your secondary foundation, now 32-bit is your secondary one. And you can still build packages against either one, 32 or 64-bit, and still do development in 32-bit as well. So the deployment server really has no effect, and that's why it's still an optional piece of the puzzle. It's just hopefully with 924 and above, you do choose to make it a 64-bit machine as well. Real key behind this is how we architected, maintaining the dual bitnesses. This is kind of going back to the question that was posted. So, in order to maintain dual bitnesses, we have to have two sets of artifacts. So we included all those into a single record into what we like to call our object repository. So we will capture any artifact, any source file and include file that is a C and an H file, and we duplicate those. We have a source and include for 32-bit, and we have a source and include for 64-bit. So this is a very clear indication that we have a 64. We've applied 64-bit to our system, and that we're in the process of migrating up to 64-bit. Now, as a developer, or as application updates, ESUs get applied, you'll notice that you get all of these objects included. Sometimes it will run through the code converter automatically for you to get these objects. Sometimes they'll automatically be included. But what will happen is we capture all that and insert it into a single record, we like to call a PAR file, into our repository. And then depending on which package you are going to be building, a 64 or 32-bit package, we extract those artifacts out and just use those artifacts as part of our package build. So again, as you're migrating through the lifecycle, 32-bit, as long as you have 32-bit in your system, will be the source of truth. You can develop on either a 32-bit development client or a 64-bit development client. It's all the same. You'll actually be developing in 32-bit, as your business functions will be written out in 32-bit, and then it will go through a code converter to get the 64-bit equivalent artifacts for you. So this is how we've managed the solution so that you can do 32 and 64-bit at the same time, but also we don't care. We've established the source of truth, and you can run either version if you want to, and you'll get the same result. The code converter, I've mentioned it many times, but it is a big deal. The code converter will actually automatically trigger on many different points automatically. The first time that it runs is your first package build. So package build will automatically go through and change all of your 32-bit artifacts into 64-bit artifacts. There's thousands of them for that first time package build, and then insert the records into the repository. After that, it can happen at any number of places as well. Biz build as a developer, when developers check in through OMW, if you apply an update through an ESU, or you could actually run this manually anytime by running a UBE as well. Now, what we've found is that, again, this code converter will change everything from 32 to 64-bit, and all it does is we have about 70 replacement rules that it will automatically run over. This handles easily 97% of the code that we've ever seen. Custom, JD Edwards, no matter what we throw at it, it's usually about 97% of the code that's existing out there in the marketplace today runs through with no problem at all. It's that 3% that you have to worry about. Mm-hmm. And that 3% is where we've come up with that white paper, which is recommendations on what you should do to your code and how you can actually test your environment today by setting some build flags in order to see what warnings you will produce today if you're on 32-bit. Those warning flags will give you an indication of what you might need to change if you were to go to 64-bit. So again, a very powerful white paper that's out there, and some things that you can do today, even if you aren't anywhere near getting to creating the project to move to 64-bit. It's good to understand what you might need to change, and so I would recommend going and getting that white paper, because you could start to implement any changes that you have today on your 32-bit system.
And the white paper covers the last 3%, Clayton?
Covers the last 3%, exactly. Yeah. We just found there was nothing we could do for that last 3% except recommend how to code correctly. Okay. So yeah, exactly. And these are some of the things that the white paper will go through and change. So pointers are some of the things you have to watch out for. The pointers are obviously a big deal because you don't want to be missing your byte alignment on your pointer. You'll get into some data that you probably don't have any business being in. Understanding the long, it's gone from 4 bytes to potentially 8 bytes on Unix platforms. The size T and the time T are also the same kind of thing. So again, there's a lot of good recommendations in this paper here, which you'll get this presentation, has the link directly to it so that you guys can go out and understand where to start. This is a great place to start, no matter where you're at with 9.2 and trying to get ready for 64-bit.
And to be clear, what you mentioned with the start, users can already do that in the current environment in preparation to the transformation.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So I recommend you go and read this paper because sooner or later you're going to need to go 64-bit. If you continue with JD Edwards past 2021, you're going to probably need to be on a 64-bit platform. So it's a really good idea to go take this paper, run a biz build, we call it, with these flags, with these compiler flags, so that you can see what business functions you need to worry about. That would need to be recoded as part of a migration project.
So I was like wondering, because you said it's still optional, and when is it not optional anymore?
That's part of my roadmap.
I would say you still have 6 months, Philippe.
Yeah. Well, I think we're starting with the 64-bit already. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a reason you had me on, so that's good. Yeah. All right, so again, we have almost 7,000 business functions that JD Edwards delivers. We had 338 business functions that would not go through the code converter automatically. All of these have been included in any update since update 3. So if you are on applications update 3, 9.2.3, applications UN3, then you are okay. But if you have anything less than that, you probably need to update some of our standard JD Edwards business functions. And so to help you with that, we have a change assistant profile. This is obviously something that our administrators and business analysts have seen before, change assistant, to go out and look for update packages that are available from Oracle. We have a change assistant profile for 9.2 that says preparing for 64-bit. And by preparing for 64-bit, we've listed all the bugs for all these business functions so that you can go and get the latest ESU that's available. Now, unfortunately, this has become a large list. This is this used to be a small list, and when we first released, it was 13 ESUs. That was 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, those 13 ESUs have translated into 300 and some ESUs now. And there are potentially large ESUs. They are baseline ESUs for some large modules. And when customers look at this list, if you have not been keeping up to date, which is a whole nother subject, how to stay code current, if you've not done that, then this will look like a really large project to you. And so the best thing would probably be to look at taking the latest update as part of your project as well, which is taking update 5, UN5, as part of your 64-bit project. So we've given you the tools, but it's getting dated and it's getting more and more difficult the longer you put this off. So once you've gone 64-bit, ESUs change a little bit. So again, we include both artifacts. We include the 32-bit artifact and the 64-bit artifact with the ESU since 9.2.3. So even if you haven't gone 64-bit, you may actually have 64-bit, some 64-bit artifacts in your system, because we just include the entire PAR file, the entire repository of this object, and we insert it directly into your database. And so you may have actually started your 64-bit migration under the covers if you've taken some ESU since 2017. So this is good, but obviously this is to help us be able to support both 32 and 64-bit customers at the same time for as long as we can. Yep, move forward again. There we go. And then one thing, I think I skipped too far. Yeah, okay. And then one thing that we did add to this project with 9.2.4 and above was this new merge tools. So we've gotten a lot of feedback from our partners a lot of your service implementation partners that handle doing upgrades and updates and so forth. And one of the things that they tell us is that they want us to stop merging. They really like the compare tools. This makes life a lot easier. The compare tools allow you to visually see the differences between two different objects, the object that you have and the object that we're replacing it with, the updated object, and be able to put with whichever customization you have back in place. So we're stopping the merging. We provided these new merge tools for UBEs, business views, and table indexes. Those were the last three things that we allowed you to merge before, but do not anymore. And we will just allow you to use these compare tools to put your customizations back in place. We already had merge tools for applications and obviously for business functions. Those are easily done through the compiler, Visual Studio, and things like that. But this was the gap. We did allow you to do some merging of UBEs as far as your columns and any new sections and things like that. We tried to merge in directly for you, but it was not always successful. This compare tool will make it a lot more successful in putting those changes back in.
So this relates more to the story we heard in the last hour from Wouter. When you, as a customer, know where your customizations are, when you made changes, etc. By knowing that and the easy tool you have now, you can stay code current as much as possible. Absolutely.
Yep. So it's very important. And as we are, if we do have an object, when we do these merges within ESU, the tool will actually tell you that we have replaced your file. We've replaced your object, your customization on our object actually, and we will put this into what's called the customization workbench. We'll actually automatically throw this record into the customization workbench to give you an indication that this is an object you need to go and retrofit again, and then allow you to launch the merge tools to do so.
Cool.
Yep. So the release flag. The release flag is at the release level. It's done by the administrator, and this is a flag that tells JD Edwards, tells the system, I am 64-bit only. I don't care about 32-bit anymore. I've got all of my path codes up to date. They're all 64-bit. All of my enterprise servers are running 64-bit. I'm very happy with it. I want to get life back to normal. I want to be done with COVID, right? I want to be back to normal. and this is exactly what the release flag is. It puts the system back into a state that says, I am only a single bitness. I don't need to worry about 32-bit. I don't want 32-bit to be my source of truth. I want 64-bit to be my source of truth. And this is a one-way. Yeah, exactly. This is a one-way setting. So once you've set this, we warned you before we really set it, but there's no going back from this. This was available from 9.2.4 forward. The administrator must set it. It can only be set if all the conditions are met, meaning all the path codes are converted and everything is ready. And then what that will do is tell OMW under the covers when we do check-in, when we do development, I'm developing in 64-bit. I don't need to run this code converter. I don't need package build to have 2 bitnesses of my source files anymore. I can remove those. And actually, we have a report that goes and allows you to purge the 32-bit pieces from your repository so that we can, again, get life back to normal. And this will make your administrator a lot more happy. Everybody else will have no idea which bitness you're running. All your end users, most of your developers will never have any idea that they're running in 64-bit or 32-bit. It's your administrator. The administrator will care about this setting and want to get life back to normal for them.
So the whole company will say, "What's the fuss about it?" But
and the administrators are pulling out their hair because instead of having to stay up nights building one package, they have to build 2, and so they want to get their life back to normal again. So this is my little treat for them. Yeah. We did some performance testing for 64-bit, and things were good. Overall, the system performed at the same or better than the 32-bit equivalent. And the main reason for this is because you will see an overall increase in the amount of memory that's being used. And that's actually pretty much a good thing nowadays. Memory is cheap, and memory has the ability to make things run faster if it's utilized right. And so our business function code, our C logic code, and most importantly our UBEs are able to run into a larger memory space, twice as much as they used to be. So if you take a UBE that maybe wasn't able to process or was processing slowly before, by giving it twice as much memory, that UBE process completes probably a lot better than it used to, and maybe probably runs a bit faster than it used to too. Now, we're not seeing dramatic, this is not by any means dramatic performance enhancement, but we did see that UBEs increased, the performance of a UBE was down 2 to 7%, especially for the large batch windows, which means it ran 2 to 7% faster than it did before on 32-bit. So overall, things are good, or it should be about the same, but you should expect a slight increase in performance.
It's a question from Maurice van der Horst, Clayton. If they can build cross-reference twice as fast now.
That's a good question. We haven't run that one through. When we do performance tests, we run it through what we call the day in the life kit. And the day in the life kit is a sample set of what we expect customers to be running. So it's a set of UBEs, it's interactive applications. Cross-reference is not part of that. So they're not building cross-reference at the same time. But that's an interesting question. I'd have to take back and see if it runs any faster. Since it is just a UBE and it does run through, it might be indeed a bit faster on the response.
So we challenge our competitors and our customers to run it before and after the transformation and check the process
exactly.
time.
I want to see the split times. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting question too, because I do have plans for cross-reference and to take advantage of it a bit more when we're talking about staying concurrent and telling you how an update is going to impact your system. So we're going to be leveraging cross-reference, and that is going to be needed to be built. So in the future. Yeah. Good. Customers ask about rolling back. So what if if we don't like what's happened with the 64-bit? Number one, I'll tell you, I haven't had a customer do this. They've thought about it. I've had a couple of customers thought about it, especially the early ones, but every single one of them, every single customer we've had go 64-bit has stayed there. The only reason that there was one customer that was slightly worried about it just because of some other considerations I'll tell you about, which is they needed something else to stay running in 32-bit, so that's why they did a bit of rollback there. But every single customer has said, we've gone 64-bit, it has not impacted our system. In fact, it's been a good thing. But if you do want to roll back, it's an easy thing to do. Because the way we've architected, we have 32 and 64-bit artifacts in the same piece. We haven't removed 32-bit, it's still there. So as long as you haven't set the release flag, as long as you haven't done that, you're still got 32-bit as your source of truth. You can easily change your deployment server back to 32-bit. You can change your enterprise servers back to 32-bit, and you can get back to the way it was. All you have to do is redeploy a package, and you'll be back on 32-bit. So very easy thing to do. But as always, nothing beats a good backup, so make sure you've taken a backup of your system before you try this 64-bit adventure, just in case. It's always a good idea. So go through the customer path a little bit here. Again, I'm trying to keep things as easy as possible for you guys, so definitely first class. We want to make sure that we're flying in first class. These are some of the things that our support team has responded. We questioned them. So we were like, what kind of questions are you getting in 32-bit? What kind of SRs have been logged with you guys about 32-bit and 64-bit? So one of the things that they first said was it's definitely easier if you are coming from a tools release that is not already 9.2.1 to first go 32-bit, and then go 64-bit after that. So apply a 32-bit foundation and then go 64-bit after that. The reason for this is because we have this project called Objects into the Database, which happened with 9.2.1. And so it is much more successful if you put the objects into the database first and then do 64-bit after that. So it's kind of a two-step process, two-step package build, two-step deployment of your tools release. But again, this falls on the administrator. It's a bit extra work for them, but there's greatest success if they do that first. There was some install and upgrade challenges, and we've resolved almost all of those with 9.2.5.3 and above. So if you have this tools release, if you're going to this tools release, you can do everything with a 64-bit deployment server. That includes doing your upgrade, that includes running table conversions, that includes almost everything. So we've closed a lot of gaps that are opportunities that we had with 9.2.5.3 and above. Okay. The software update process changes the spec merge, as I mentioned, and you really have a need for the new merge tools. So be aware of that if you have a 64-bit deployment server. And then these are the two big gotchas. We've deprecated 2 features within JD Edwards that are catching customers off guard and causing SRs. The number one thing is that the workflow modeler has been deprecated. So again, this is the one case that my customer really wanted 32-bit is because they still needed to use the workflow modeler. We're coming out with a new solution for workflow modeler in 9.2.6. And so that'll help close that gap. And then the other one is the eGenerator. The eGenerator is used by administrators to populate serialized objects. It's a performance thing after package deployment. And so we do have some options to help you guys in doing that, have an equivalent of the eGenerator, but it was a separate process that took many hours to run before. And so we've deprecated that because it was an old Java process that we decided did not need to continue with 64-bit. So that was just some gotchas. Again, we'll get to the roadmap here. We've got a couple of minutes. So this is our timeline again, and I'm going to fill in the plan pieces now to kind of give you a heads up of what we're looking at for 64-bit. As you can imagine, there's not many architecture change. I just mentioned the workflow modeler. That is coming in the next release. But the big piece of the roadmap for 64-bit is, are we going to remaster? Are we going to remaster JD Edwards so that when we deploy a new system because we're upgrading for the first time or whatever else? The answer is no, we will not be remastering the platform CDs, but we will be doing one-click provisioning. One-click is our tool that we're leveraging to provide new deployments or establish the 9.2 environment if you're doing an upgrade. And so one-click is our way to essentially remaster the system. And with 9.2.5.3, which was released in May, just last month, we provided a 64-bit one-click environment. So this really kind of closes that gap and answers that question. But this is the big one here. So when is JD Edwards going to stop supporting 32-bit? And this timeline kind of gives you an idea of where we've come from and where we're going. But the idea is our plan. This is proposed, this is planned, is that 9.2.6, our next full tools update, will be 64-bit only. And so that immediately puts you on the shot clock. That means that you have got to start thinking about 64-bit if you want to take 9.2.6. Obviously, you can do this with you can go directly to 64-bit if you want to when you take 9.2.6, but that, as we've shown, that doesn't give you the flexibility that you have today. That doesn't give you the flexibility of maintaining 32-bit and 64-bit in your system and going through and making sure everything is tested and working and that you are comfortable with 64-bit. This makes you jump right into the pool, cannonball style, and go right to 64-bit without a lot of care and concern, and again, going through the process of making sure that you are comfortable with it. So 32-bit, 9.2.5 may be our last 32-bit release that we've done. It's planned to go into sustaining support in Q2 next year. So you're looking at 12 months from now. We'll be sustaining support for 32-bit, and 64-bit will be the way of the future for JDE Edwards.
So the link to the white paper, Clayton, will be very popular because we can start.
Will be very popular, exactly. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that's why I think that's why Walter wanted to have me on here, was to really drive home to the message that this 64-bit train is leaving the station, and hopefully you guys can catch it before it runs over you. Get yourself a good seat in that train before all the bad seats are taken.
Yeah, yep. Clear. Looking at the time, are you almost finished?
Yeah. I've only got a couple more slides. So the workflow modeler, just to kind of give you an idea, we were looking at leveraging Orchestrator Studio as part of the solution there. So workflow modeler is a very visual tool. And so we're going to be leveraging our visual tool, the Studio, in order to allow you to examine and modify workflows. So that's the planned change for that. And then just a couple of things. Again, start now. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to take that white paper, go and evaluate, talk to your partner. All of our partners, all of our Oracle system integration partners understand 64-bit. I've been talking to them for years about it. Run a full build with those compile flags. Make sure your third-party integrations are up to date, because those will make you stay behind. Some of the laggers are DSI. DSI is still working on their complete 64-bit solution. So talk to your third parties and make sure they have a 64-bit solution. Apply the 64-bit ESUs. And unless it's a really large ESU that's grown into a baseline, many of these ESUs are tiny, and again, don't have any logic changes, and just can be quickly applied to your system. So I would take those if you can, and then get to tools 9.2 and above, because as I mentioned, that has the greatest chance of success if you're coming from this tools release and above. So get to work. That's the end of my presentation here. That's my call to action, is start to evaluate this now, because as you've seen, you've got about 12 months before you're jumping into the deep end. So.
Yeah. So we still have time, but what you're saying, clock is ticking.
Yeah, and most customers are seeing this as it's an event, right? So the code converter will obviously go through and not change the logic, but it will convert the logic. And so you do want to make sure that you've got time to go through and test everything. And if you have to take an update, now's the time to do that, so that you put these two events together, so that you're only testing once and not having to do this twice. I think it's a lot easier for you to go back to your board or whoever else for approval for a project like this once than it is for twice. So let's get it in.
Exactly. Well, hopefully time for two small questions. The small answers, hopefully, Clayton. First from Wouter Helsloot. Do you have plans to make the cross-reference build make a web client option instead of a fat client option?
Yeah, we do. Yep. So that's part of that's part of my big project right now. Is we're doing a lot of work around managing updates easier. Yeah. And as part of that, like I said, cross-reference is going to be a player in that. And so all of whatever it takes to get the tools that you do for an update onto the web and make it off the deployment server is part of that project, and that includes cross-reference.
Well, I assume you already have one vote and a watcher. So.
I think he'll be beta testing it for me. Yeah.
And the last question is from Pascal Zaat. He's saying the orchestration for pre-populated serialized object tables, will that be supplied by Oracle?
No. That will not. So again, that's my recommendation for an eGenerator replacement, is to create an orchestration. But the idea is that the eGenerator went through and generated everything. It went through every single object and created serialized objects of it. That's really unnecessary. What you need to do is see what objects you guys actually use and run that through an orchestration to pre-populate the serialized objects. And I do have another project that's going to be coming in place to do some equivalent of that, but we will not be providing any sort of orchestration that goes through and does the entire population of serialized objects for you. That is up to you guys to just pick the objects that your end users use on a regular basis, because that just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. Okay.
And everybody's different.
Luckily we are.
Yeah.
Clayton, I would like to thank you very much for your time. We know that you got up early. It's between 7 and 8 at your time, so much appreciated. Hopefully we can meet and see each other in the Netherlands again when traveling is possible.
Hope so too.
Yeah, and for all the participants and the JDE EnterpriseOne Philip, we know where we can find Clayton if we have questions.
Of course. It's going to be easy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. Yeah, if you have any questions, my email is clayton.seeley@oracle.com. I'm very happy to talk to any customer about 64-bit or any other, system simplification of your system. I'm in touch with a lot of customers, a lot of partners. So anything you guys need, I'm open to you guys.
Great. Thanks very much, Clayton.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wij gaan er weer even uit voor een korte break.
Ja.
Kunnen we wel weer een verfrissement gebruiken. Hè? Normaal gesproken gaan we dan even naar de ruimte en dan spreken we mensen. En nou moeten we het maar even doen met elkaar.
Met elkaar, ja, inderdaad.
Ja. Nou, we zien jullie graag zeg over 6 minuten om, moet ik even goed kijken, 4 uur sharp. Dan starten we weer. Tot zo.
Tot zo.
Nou, we zijn weer terug. Philippe, koud glas water en we gaan weer.
Inderdaad, volle vaart. Dat we snel hier naar buiten kunnen, zou ik zeggen, en kunnen afkoelen. We gaan nu verder met het volgende punt van de agenda. Paul Houtkoper, Senior President Product Development van JDE Edwards, zal ons eigenlijk de toekomst gaan voorhouden, wat er allemaal aankomt en hoe dat er allemaal gaat uitzien. Paul was 2-3 jaar geleden op de sessie, de jaarlijkse bijeenkomst OBUG. En hij heeft een kleine linkje met Nederland, met zijn achternaam Houtkoper. I'm going to English now. I was just telling that you told a story with your last visit about your little thing you have with Holland regarding your name. My granddad, he was a Cooper. So that's my little bridge to you and to give you the word to the roadmap of JDE Edwards, Paul.
Right. Thank you for that introduction. Hello, everybody. Happy to be here today. Are you guys okay if I share my screen and start
Yes,
the
please.
presentation?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Awesome.
We're also seeing a chat box where questions pop up. So if I see some questions or Philippe, then we'll try to find a moment and ask them to you.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, guys. All right. Yep, Paul Houtkoper. So I'm going to go through some strategy and some vision. I definitely look forward to the day that we can again do this in person. Hopefully that's coming up sooner rather than later. I'll be honest, doing these virtual presentations is a challenge. I tend to feed off the audience and I want to see you guys, but we'll do it one more time virtual and hopefully the next time we get to do this live. So let's start off just talking about a little bit, kind of what we're seeing, trends out there or maybe the experiences that we're all having. I think we can all agree this past, 18 months has been an extreme challenge for all of us. And it put many of these pressures that you kind of see outlined on this slide, it put, heightened pressure on all of these, right? I mean, it just put a spotlight on them, whether or not you were trying to rationalize your ERP and consolidate, or, you wanted to alleviate your infrastructure and overhead and avoid that. There's been cost pressures this entire time. And as we talk to customers, this past year, these are the things that they're dealing with, and it just put an enhanced focus, obsoleting their systems, trying to keep up with compliance and risk and regulation. Some of the success factors, however, many have championed and applauded us for, continuous innovation. Those that had an agile mindset were able to move quickly. They could take advantage. Those that had, a continuous adoption strategy were able to keep up or had kept up with a lot of the enhancements that we were putting out the door. We're able to leverage those to alleviate some of these pressures this past year. And the other thing was, leveraging JD Edwards to accelerate, basically their digital transformation or their digital transformation strategies. So that's a lot of what we've seen. If we go to kind of where JD Edwards is standing, we've got thousands of customers now that are, leveraging our continuous development or continuous innovation platform of 9.2, where we've delivered, well over 670 customer-driven product improvements since 9.2 GA'd. I think in the past, I'd say, 2 years, you've seen an enhanced focus. We like to say we're hyper-focused on delivering, customer-driven product improvements. I think actually the last time I was there, we had a discussion about the fact that, folks were submitting enhancements and getting tired of not necessarily getting a response. And we made a concerted effort, following those discussions to really focus in on listening to our customers and giving them basically a voice that allows them to directly influence what we're doing. So hopefully you guys are all realizing that benefit and seeing that benefit. 9.2 also is where we have obviously our orchestrator, and we've been tracking the number of customers that have been getting benefit from orchestrator since its inception. And at this point now we can, happily say that we have over 650 unique customers have reported in with stories on how they've leveraged orchestrator to either automate a business process, extend or personalize their applications and adapt them to meet their changing business needs. I mean, there was a lot of great stories this past year where, that automation and that ability to adapt JDE really did help people battle, and react to changes, spikes or whatnot in supply and demand. And, it was great to hear that, we were able to help them get through some of those challenges. The other thing that they're using Orchestrator for was obviously REST enabling, the business logic, right? So it allows you to do integrations on the fly in a fairly, condensed time frame. We continue to see, from a cloud standpoint, we continue to see a lot of growth in OCI, people kind of shifting and moving their JDE instances into Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and realizing benefits there as they get out of the data center business, as we like to say. But more impressive is the number of customers that are now employing you can call it maybe a hybrid cloud surround strategy, where they're looking at other investments Oracle's making in the cloud and surrounding JD Edwards with those investments and really complementing the JD Edwards solution with some of Oracle's cloud apps. Finally, I'm proud to say, I've got 2032 on this slide, and I'm proud to say that me and my team are committed to enhancing, JD Edwards 9.2 for at least the next decade. Right, this guarantees at least 10 more years of premier support on the 9.2 release. And I say 9.2 release because that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about JD Edwards as a whole as, 2032. We're just talking about the 9.2 release. And you've got premier support through 2032, which should allow plenty of time for customers to get value out of their investment in JDE and also, start to make long-term plans for what their future might look like. As far as our investment strategy is concerned, it remains pretty much the same. You've probably heard this before. We're focused on optimizing our applications. We're focused on, transforming, or accelerating your digital transformation initiatives and system automation. right? From an application optimization standpoint, easy for me to say this morning, I apologize. We're looking at it from 3 different, vectors. One is protecting your business. We've still got the leg reg localization and security enhancements that we have to put out the door. The other is improving your business, and that's where that hyper focus on, your enhancement requests and what you need the product to do in order to meet your business needs comes in. And that's where, we're quarter after quarter and really not even waiting for the quarters, right? It comes out in ESUs on a weekly basis, delivering those enhancements to you. And then future-proofing your business by enabling you to take advantage of no-code, low-code opportunities or changing your overall user experience. Within digital transformation, it's all about process automation. I just mentioned no-code, low-code UI and the trends we're seeing there and what we want to do to try to enable that. And then overall enterprise integrations, going back to being able to REST enable all of JD Edwards' business logic to quickly integrate, where you need to. System automation, not only is this about, continuing to try to help you drive down TCO, it's also about enabling you to realize a continuous adoption strategy. If the barriers are too high and it takes too much time and there's too much overhead to taking those, enhancements that we're putting out on a weekly basis, quarterly basis, to improve your business, well, then, you're just going to get behind. It's in our best interest and to try to figure out how to enable you to take advantage of those things so you really realize the ROI that you get with JD Edwards. Okay. Wanted to walk through a little bit of the roadmap and then also some examples, cumulative value examples of what we're doing here. We've recently, let out or released global lease accounting. We've done order level pricing in the area, applications optimizations. We're still getting complimented on work order activity rules in the ledger. More recently, you've seen project status inquiry come out. But on the roadmap and what you'll see coming soon, we want to help you in the area of material requirements planning, whether or not that's with automated safety stock population or an enhanced workbench, if you will, or console, if you will, for managing, supply demand for manufacturing. Okay. Some other areas, we've made, good advancement in advanced pricing for procurement. Basically getting, procurement on par with sales, and you'll see additional, enhancements come through that bring that to fruition, coming soon. And finally, real-time sales advisor. Again, trying to enhance your overall capability within Sales Advisor, and really pushing the envelope of what sales can actually do. Within digital transformation, you'll probably recognize a few of these: orchestrator, form extensions, notifications, etc. But we recently released the assertion framework to help automate the ability to validate not only your orchestrations, but those orchestrations represent key business processes most likely in your day-to-day lives. And so the assertion framework does facilitate your ability to validate, your key business processes, which obviously facilitates your ability to maintain a continuous adoption strategy. Coming soon, something that I'm very excited about is, we gave you data extensibility in the form of data. We gave you extensibility in the form of forms, right? Being able to put buttons and link in orchestrations. Now we're going to have logic extensibility, and that logic extensibility is going to be on the glass. So you're not going to need to go into FDA or anything to mess around with the, specs, as we say, of our applications in order to extend them with new logic, which, gets very, very exciting. It's something as someone that came up through the development ranks, I've been wanting something like this for years. I might just have to go back in and play around with it myself. Going on to system automation, some recent deliveries towards the end of last year that you probably saw with 9.2.5, dev client simplification, removing the database from the dev client, overall simplifying that package. That was exciting. Virtual batch queues to facilitate or accelerate the elasticity of your management and your batch backlog, and then autonomous DB support. Coming forward, though, we're making additional changes to allow for auto scaling, and things I'm excited about include zero downtime deployment and the REST enablement that we're doing behind Update Manager. Again, I think your experience with how you take, our updates, how you take our changes, our solutions, whether they be ESUs, enhancements, whatnot, is going to evolve significantly this year. Okay, so I'm very, very excited about that.
Paul, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I see in the middle, the digital transformation, the planned service-only user. What does that mean?
That's a good question. Let me. I actually just went blank on service only. I apologize.
That's okay. It's forgiven.
Do me a favor. Cue that up as the first question for our Q&A immediately following this.
I will. Go ahead.
Usually, I'm intimately familiar with every single one of these. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
See, I can admit when I don't know. So.
I appreciate your honesty, so that's okay.
Talking about the cumulative value story, I mean, we've been delivering for 5 years, right? And I think sometimes it's difficult to see the overall picture about how some of what we've delivered over these years is necessarily fit together, right? Individually, these things are definitely adding value, but to be able to see the broader picture of where we've been building to, one example here is going to be financial close. We've delivered several enhancements over the years related to user experience or trying to simplify or trying to automate various parts of this process. For instance, you've got the role-based pages that we delivered with UX1. You've got, what we've done around notifications, pre-configured notifications to drive awareness. The other one that, I personally had a part in was also the interactive reconciliation, the integrities that we, made basically 50 times faster to try and simplify that overall process. So all in all, we've delivered 60 plus enhancements in this particular space to try to, simplify it, automate it, improve the overall user experience, and it results in an extremely faster financial close. I believe one of the more recent presentations we actually had a customer come on and say, they were able, as a result of this, to get this done in a matter of a few hours versus days versus weeks. So that's great validation. And, if you go out there and learn JDE, we have cumulative value stories like this posted for several of our key functional areas. So if you're curious and you want to understand what it looks like, in some of those other areas, you can go look that up on Learn JDE. Another example of the cumulative value story here is with digital transformation. While each individual enhancement, such as notifications and multiple links and attachments, has added value, like I said, they kind of serve as building blocks to the next generation, in this case, next generation of workflow to support our alert, analyze, act paradigm. Workflow is a key component, right, of any business, and we're doing what we can to reduce the technical requirements for being needed and really empower the business analysts to be able to make these changes and improve operational efficiencies. So you'll see orchestrator support for media objects. You'll see a browser-based modeler coming soon, to facilitate this. And then, of course, you can couple that with the logic on the glass to improve the overall experience and capability to adapt JD Edwards to fit your business needs. Removing barriers to continuous adoption is, a third area. I mean, again, you've got this cumulative value story in each one of the areas that we're investing, right? So if you look through what we've done in recent years to remove barriers, we've got the decustomizer report to try to help you understand how you can use personalization and extensibility to maybe alleviate or remove customization. We've made changes to simplified upgrade. We've introduced user-defined objects. The merge tools have all been enhanced. Again, trying to make this better, but they all came individually and add, significant value. As I mentioned before, zero downtime deployment, along with the changes that we're making to Update Manager, are going to change the overall experience coming soon. The automated package build deployment is another one that, will kind of change the game. We're eating our own dog food here, as we like to say. Hey, not only did we put Orchestrator out there for you guys, to automate your business, you can, we're leveraging it to automate many of our processes that you can also benefit from. So again, a lot of cumulative value being delivered here. Overall vision. I believe the last time I was there, I actually talked about intelligent ERP and where we were on that evolutionary curve towards intelligent ERP. And, we continue to progress, right? I mean, we're trying to look out in the future, trying to anticipate, what we see, what are our worlds going to look like, 3, 5, 10 years down the road. So, and this, of course, is what then, we decompose and we break down into that strategy, which then breaks down into what we, deliver on a quarterly basis. But I thought I'd take a second to just kind of walk through the higher level vision that is kind of driving everything that I've already, shown today. One is, one element of this is the enterprise experience. We anticipate, a fully connected, fully automated enterprise of the future, right? Where you have the ability to automate, 90+% of your business processes, where there's, embedded intelligence in like every JD Edwards business process in order to suggest, predict, or anticipate the optimal outcome, business outcome for you. The other thing is that the relationship that you have and your end users have with your ERP is going to evolve. This one's a little bit, it's actually tough, to recognize what it's really going to look like. Digital assistance obviously is influencing how we're interacting, but there's things like virtual reality and augmented reality that, it's just difficult to understand how they're going to influence, because they will play a role, and it'll be very, very exciting to see what they can do. As far as, kind of an analogy that is to frame this, we look at it as kind of the connected home, right? Where everything within your home is now connected, from your doorbell to your refrigerator to your irrigation system. Everything ends up being connected, and I believe all you have to do is call up Alexa, to get anything to turn on. Watch
what you're saying, Paul, because at the audience back in home, suddenly all kinds of things are going on.
That's right. Exactly. So it's very exciting. In this space. Another area is the seamless adaptability, right? I've talked about removing, the need for customization and getting to this no code, low code on the glass framework. I mean, that's what we see in the future. You'll just be able to adapt on the glass what you need to fit your business needs. You'll be able to integrate, extend, personalize, without really any disruption. The other focus is on reducing the technical skill required, right, to be able to make those changes, right? So your business analyst, becomes the key individual, and I hate to say it, I mean, I'm a developer, but at the end of the day, if there was a KPI here, we'd say, we want to eliminate the engineer, perhaps. I don't know, but maybe that's the future, maybe it's not, but. To put an analogy to it, I would look at what's happening around, say, smart TVs and 5G, right? And your ability to control your overall experience. Not only can you, download an app, and immediately implement and start viewing or interacting with it, but, more recently with 5G, you're going to be able to control camera angles when you're watching your favorite sporting event, right? You'll be able to change cameras, you'll be able to change speakers, you'll be able to change, a lot about your overall experience and control all of that on the glass, right? And that's gonna, it's gonna change your overall vantage point, right? And the control that you have over your system. So that's what we're looking at, and that's what's motivating us in this space. And then you've got autonomous system management, right? And this is where, I mean, maybe the last time I was there when I was talking about intelligent ERP, this is kind of where I was really invested, because I look at it as a self-monitoring, self-correcting, self-patching, maybe even self-optimizing system, right? This is a system that understands your business. Your DNA has been imprinted on the ERP system, and its ability to recognize that and then behave as your digital twin, so to speak, and anticipate what you need, and its overall understanding of just how the system works should allow it to behave autonomously, right? So yes, we're going to leverage autonomous Oracle investments such as OCI and ADB and Linux, but eventually you may see that the need for CNC starts to lessen and lessen and lessen, right? The analogy here that we've been using gets to your Tesla car, right? I mean, I don't have to go into great detail there. I think everybody, can understand that correlation or that analogy. So that's the vision. That's what is motivating us. We put it in these categories. That's what drives down to our strategy, and that's what eventually transforms into enhancements on the roadmap that we are delivering. So
nice.
We're already getting a question, Paul. If you don't mind.
Okay.
So, will there be an optimized UX for touch apps, touch screen like apps? You're already smiling, so you knew this was coming or something?
Optimize UX for Dutch, is that what it is?
No, I was optimized for the touch screens, the user experience for touch screens.
I would. I mean, right now, for what we're individually doing, we're not playing with that. But I've seen some recent examples of like augmented reality being played with, where you don't even have touch screens; it's touchless, completely touchless, right? Where people are literally interacting. Doing JDE Edwards transactions via AR. It's been wild. So we do have business partners out there that are pushing this envelope, which is one of the reasons that I threw it in here, is because it's a little bit wonky right now, but the changes that we're making, as long as people are continuing to press the envelope and give us that feedback, we'll continue to make the investments in our digital platform to try and facilitate making those things a reality where they make sense and where they add value, right? Okay. So that, it's kind of this, we're trying to anticipate, but with business partners and customers pushing the edge, I can't emphasize enough, and this will likely come up in the Q&A as well, that folks keep on asking us for what they need to make some of this stuff real, right? So
I will tell my salespeople, because we're upgrading to the new 9.2, and you're gonna get an app on your iPhone, and so okay.
Cool. I think the next slide in here is just some examples of customers again having success with JDE Edwards, but in the to put it in the context of the vision and to put it in the context of our investments, from an application optimization standpoint, you see folks like Martin Marietta that are leveraging lease accounting, right, and that we put out the door. In the area of digital transformation, I think you have several examples here, whether it be, integrating with artificial intelligence, with car properties, or, automating meter readings. There's others where I've seen, folks, I remember being on, a stage a while back demonstrating how you could automate the way tag transactions for blend and grower management, and we recently had a customer come on and basically show us that they've done it and whatnot. So they're definitely take advantage of the Orchestrator and whatnot to advance make those sorts of things real, right? They're not just ideas from the lab, so to speak. And then you've got, in the case of infrastructure, you've got folks like Circle K where they've consolidated instances and run everything on the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. So there's a lot of good customer success stories out there that reflect, people, taking advantage of what we're putting out there to advance their business goals. So, okay. As always, got to have a slide in here like this, right, guys? Stay connected. We're out there on Twitter. We're out there on LinkedIn. We've got all of our various, communities. I can't say enough about Learn JDE. So many times I get questions, where's the roadmap? Learn JDE. What have you done recently? Like I just showed in financials, they'll ask, what have you done recently in manufacturing or supply chain management? Go to Learn JDE. You can find just about anything and everything you need as it relates to JD Edwards on Learn JDE. So please take advantage of that platform. So, with that, it looks like I'm almost right on time. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thanks very much, Paul. While your colleagues are joining the session, stay connected, Philippe. One of the stay connected is the inform and connect by the user community with OBUG. So hopefully we are in November again physically. In the meantime, we'll try as much as possible to use the social media, LinkedIn groups. We recently updated our website, so our website is also refreshed, getting a fresh new look to make it easier for users to find us.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it, but maybe we should promote it more. But this is one day to promote it, and hopefully we can meet each other soon again on real site events. And if everybody's ready, we're gonna talk about some questions already. I already got from some other users some improvements I've seen already on your screen, Paul, or maybe coming to the screen, but also practical questions from users, just like which browser do we need to use, all that stuff. So, and there were some more questions popping up. One is about the touch screens, especially like in a manufacturing environment. It would be really easy to have touch screens, or to interact with the people. It makes it easier for them. So.
Yeah, we've definitely seen customers too where they've developed some mobile apps on the shop floor, right, for their shop floor users to be able to just. Again, bring the task to them, so it's not, obviously not paper pencil or anything like that anymore, but putting the mobile app in their hands so they can just, do their work order completions, material issues, whatever it happens to be, record the transactions on the fly, really making them more efficient. We see that.
Okay.
Well, we have already online Keith and Jeff, so a very warm welcome from a warm Rotterdam here. I like your background, Jeff. You have a specific team?
Watch out. Since I lived in England for 3 years, I got root for England. So again, I'm hoping for. I love Denmark, Belgium, Netherlands. It's good to see they all actually made it this year. So it's love Euro 2000. Love the Euro Cup.
Yeah. We too.
Me too.
Yeah. And you guys picked the schedule correct, so none of the Benelux teams are playing today.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to college for a period of time in Denmark, and so I've always been a Denmark fan. In fact, I was over there during the Euro Cup in, I think it was 91. I believe it was 91 when. Denmark beat Germany for the championship. So
it was 92, Keith. I remember.
92? Okay.
Yeah, okay. And Denmark wasn't even qualified, but they managed to get in because of the absence of another team. So they got all the players back from holiday and joined the tournament, and at the end they won. So memorable. I do see the other persons not anymore again, but maybe, Keith, I can start with one question before Philip has some others. I asked Paul about the service-only user in the digital transformation roadmap planned. He couldn't answer that. So my question to you, what's a service-only user which is on the roadmap for the digital transformation?
So Keith, what is it?
I knew you were going to do that.
Way to go, Jeff.
So I'll take that one.
I went blank, Jeff. I admitted I went blank when they asked the question.
Service-only users, something we've been looking at. We've gotten requests from customers. They have external systems that want to interface in with JD Edwards via Orchestrator, but they don't want those users to have access via the traditional sign-in screen to get access. So this is an enhancement that you can create a user type that is only service only. Mm-hmm. They can only launch orchestrations, and they can't sign in through the traditional browser sign-in. So that's what it is. So again, customer-driven improvement out of the different user groups, really tying into the things that Paul is talking about. Is this disconnected or non-traditional user, touchless user coming into the system? So that's what that service only is.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go ahead with some of the questions from our group. Like last year with COVID, we had some webinars, and one was JDE Talks. I think we saw the roadmap, what was presented at Quest last year, somewhere in April. And we used that one and also a video to see what's happening in the JDE world. And then we had some talks together with all the users. And I pushed from my company for a lot ledger. And some other companies from the user group, they also, I think, went to log it as an enhancement. We also know from the OBUG there's also interest from Quest in a lot ledger. So it's been logged last year. So we're just wondering how is it going with the enhancements, maybe also in general for the public. So they all know how do you deal with bugs, enhancements, and maybe you could give already a status of this specific bug.
Sure. So you're wondering why it's taking so long?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lot Ledger is something that our team has taken a look at. We understand the value of having that history table there to be able to understand what happened with lot and location, various attributes, throughout its life. Makes sense to us. It's something that we now have on our backlog. So if you think about, thinking about how we process through things, there's a lot of stuff that comes in through the door that we take a look at. When we have a strong feeling that this is something that we really want to do, we kind of put it in our bucket, in our backlog bucket. And then those things then are evaluated and prioritized, and we take from that bucket into production, right? Not in a sequential manner, but more in a, where we see it fitting in with our priorities and the available resources and things like that. So it's in that bucket. It is not planned or scheduled for any specific release time frame yet, but it is pretty high up in the priority, and we expect that this is probably something we're going to be looking at for this upcoming year. So don't expect it this year. In fact, I can guarantee you're not going to see it this year, but it's likely something that we'll be working on next year.
Well, it's still working for us because we're working on an upgrade. So, I mean, we take, because we're on an old version and we're looking at all the customizations and do really want to actually start all over again. So for us, it's still time enough. But thank you for the explanation of how things work, and we know a little bit. And
let me expand on that just a little, just so everybody's on the same page with, kind of the process from a larger perspective. We love it when you guys work together as a group, and gain agreement and say this is something that's important to us, and then present it in that way. We, at the same time, we want the individual companies that are interested in something to log an SR against that. Every SR that comes in that gets logged as an enhancement request is reviewed by our development team and our product managers. And, the more names that we have associated with that request, obviously, the more weight it's going to have. And so, I say this to every customer we talk to in every group. It's please, just because the SR or the enhancement request might be out there, if you don't have your name associated, please enter a request and get your name associated to it, because we see that in our stats, and our team pays attention to that, and that helps us. It helps us with that prioritization.
So the message key is that it does help if every individual customer log the SR and link it to each other, so it eases your work. And okay, good.
Yep. That way, Paul won't say, "But there's only one customer on this. Why are we doing this?"
Good.
Yeah, I think we learned that lesson from the work order ledgers. So
yeah.
We have to promote this in our group and maybe with other groups. So okay.
Yeah.
Then I have a question, and this just happened while talking to another client. I'm just also a client, actually, user of JDE AdWords, and sometimes we met people on events, and then you try to help each other. And so I got this question last week. What is the best browser for JDE AdWords 9.2? Because Internet Explorer, it's not that safe anymore, and I remember from when we started with JDE AdWords, we also tried everything like Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Edge. Edge was not there then, but just to see even tuning the web pages, which one is faster. They told me, because we're working on the upgrade, so we're using Edge. But they told me, we don't have certain icons like date icons, lookup icons. I have them. That's probably some configuration. But I thought it was an interesting question for you guys. What is Oracle JDE AdWords actually saying about browsers? And also, there are also some other problems. Also, I think regarding. I think it's already a bug mentioned to you guys about opening PDFs and other object behavior in hyperlinks. So can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Sure. I mean, generally speaking, and Jeff, you'll feel free to weigh in here and correct me if I go wrong here. But I mean, we don't really recommend any one specific browser, right? As far as the best browser, they all have probably their own unique qualities, and depending on what experience you prefer, I mean, it's your choice. You've got freedom of control over that. That said, I mean, there have been a lot of questions on IE support and what's happening with ActiveX and whatnot, right? That seems to be driving a lot of those questions and a lot of those concerns. We're aware of that. We've been working on it. Actually, with 9254, that just came out. I think I just sent the announcement yesterday.
I've seen it.
I've seen it.
We have support now for import and export, from Excel for all browsers, not just IE, as well as a lot of the media object functionality got delivered with 9254. So, a lot of the concerns should be alleviated. Maybe not all, but a lot of them should be alleviated with the most recent release. And we were pretty excited to be able to, again, deliver that import-export capability, because that's been something that people have wanted for a very long time, right? And it was very cool to finally be able to bring that to market. Anything to add to that, Jeff?
The only two things I would add to that is, one, this is a reason why it's important to stay current with JD Edwards on the tools releases. The browsers are changing, and I will share everybody's frustrations, and I'll share the frustrations for Paul's great org. Yeah, the browsers used to drop every year to 2 years. They're dropping every 6 weeks now. And there's behavior changes. And our team works at those. The best way to get the best experience is be current, both with JD Edwards, with tools updates, and that allows you to be current with the most current browsers because there's changes. Also with security, there's a large portion of the security pieces with that. As I know, there's a lot of different requests out there for having the behavior of the way IE always used to work. I will set the expectation that we leverage the native browser capabilities, and a large portion of that is because of security. So when the browsers change the behaviors, we align with those browser behavior changes. So things like opening up a PDF, we defer to how that browsers handle opening up that PDF. If there's a setting to always open it as a PDF, we'll defer to that. But for security reasons, they say if you had to download it, we're going to defer to that behavior because we're aligning with their security practices and the overall industry standards in those areas.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff, for the explanation. Referring to my question earlier about the service-only user, the question pops up, is this a license as traditional or is it different?
It's still a traditional user.
Okay. So you still need to have licensed users for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, it's an interesting model, and I don't know if Paul McCartan's still on the call. I'd always defer to Paul and his team on licensing. We're just product guys.
Yeah. Okay.
But the paradigm is you're still running JD Edwards capabilities, and that's where the value is. If a user's signing in from traditional app or from an integration point, they're still running the JD Edwards logic behind the scenes. So they need to be a licensed user.
Yeah. Okay. Clear. Next question from Ronald de Haas is, can we create an orchestration to consume a web service on another system to interface data from JD Edwards, so for example CRM?
I would like to get that question in an email and we can get a response back from our architects. Again, that seems like a very implementation specific question and we can get an answer for that.
Okay, so I will ask Ronald Haas just to mail it to you, Jeff.
Yeah, okay.
And the other one is more for the user community, Philippe.
I saw it coming and I knew, I called, it's about, is there a manual about logging in SRR or somewhere to find and learn JDE? Because I've been struggling with it too. And probably some other users too. How do you really can log a good SAR?
Yeah. So service request.
Yeah. So do you guys have like a manual or something we can all share with our users?
I am sure we do, but I haven't looked at it lately. So you know what? That is something that I can check into, and I will make available to the group.
Okay, that would be
that's
great.
a good. So we have the folks from our support team do periodically we'll do a how to work best with support presentation. I'm pretty sure that's part of that presentation. So I'll dig that out and make that available.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have some more questions. There's also from a user, from a developer from, actually from my company. And like I said, we're working on the 9.2. It has to do with form extensions. Is there a possibility to take along your system variables, the version you're working with, taking to another application through a row exit? And it's like 4 questions. I know he's in the audience. Maybe he can clarify some more if you need more information. He'll be up there. Can you make form extensions version specific? Then regarding when making BI publisher report definitions and matching those with a version, the standard JDE Edwards print is not visible. It would be handy to see the original output, especially for a consultant or a developer. And then the last one, once a report definition is matched, the printer choice pop-up is gone. Here you could turn off BI publisher else. Yeah, I tried to make the best translation out of it. And I know I mailed you the questions, so I hope they made sense.
Yeah, so thanks for providing all those. I would say those are the type of detailed questions that we would really need, or requests, I guess, that we would really need via the SR system. That way, we can be sure that we understand the entirety of the problem that's trying to be solved. Otherwise, if we kind of take a guess at it, we'll probably be wrong. Mm-hmm. For these, I don't know, maybe all of those, I'm not sure. Sounds like there's 3 or 4 different things there. I would request, enter that SR, but then let us know the SR number, and we'll kind of work with you to work through that so we understand it better.
The other thing I'd add to that, Keith, is on each one of these, I know it's a quick question, and I know you're trying to get a quick answer. What we're always curious on is what you're trying to accomplish. I know sometimes, I know me as a developer, I ask what I need. This is what I need. I don't necessarily communicate to you why, because, well, sometimes I just think it's intuitive and you should understand why I'm asking for this, darn it. But the reality is we're not omnipotent and all-knowing when it comes to the business processes and what you're trying to accomplish. So I'd say make sure that you have the business value statement on the back of that. Like, why is it that you need to do what you're trying to do? Because sometimes when you throw that in there, there's a different way to solve this problem, where there may be other opportunities or alternative approaches we can suggest in the interim while we go chew on this and figure out if we can get it to work. You mentioned form extensions being version specific. I'd probably separate that out or segregate that from the other ones that were kind of grouped together there. And Jeff, did you want to comment on form extensions and versioning?
Yeah, I would just add some detail we do form extensions is designed to be across all versions, and that request is actually coming from our customers. There's patterns that they want all versions, all users to have, and so we do that at the form extension level, and there's some technical reasons for that. But that is therefore available for every version, every user to consume that. For the version specific, that's where we have form personalization that allows you to take those form extensions and make it version, user, group, role specific. So we'd like to understand if there's some gaps there there's some things that you can't do. But that's our current solution is form personalization is really meant to be version specific by user, by role, by business unit. And then the form extensions is across versions. And that's the architecture we've gone to, again, based upon customer feedback, because we had started at version only with form personalization, and we got a lot of requests. It's like, well, we have 50 versions. We got pushes across 50 versions. This is
the other way around.
Can't you do so? Yeah. So again, we'd love, if that doesn't solve that problem, to Paula's point, please enter an SR of why you need something different, or what's the requirement, what you're trying to achieve, and then we'll love to look at that to see see if we have a gap or if there's some different solutions out there.
Okay.
And to summarize it a little bit, also with the question about a documentation or a handout how to log, from personal experience, you need to have some time to set up a profile on your service request. Each customer has a supplier identifier, so then you add some information which helps you guys at the development team. Okay, this is the system, this is the database system, this version I'm running, this application, etc., etc. Once you set that up, in a few steps you can log an SR for your company. The challenge we have as a user community is to combine those SARs and to communicate on a certain level.
Yep.
Okay, Philippe, I've logged this SR. Log it yourself and link it to the ones I have.
Yep.
That should be the power we are providing.
Yeah. Maybe we should create a tool to make it easier to
we automate. We make an orchestration.
Orchestration to share them. But thank you for the information. I know it came up specifically for our company because we just had our first sprint and going through things. So it's a new playground for us. So we'll see what's going on. So and I will make calls and see get you more info for it. So.
Perhaps there are some other questions from the audience. Please use the chat, and then we'll pick that one up. Just a general question from my side. Do you have an idea of the user community in our area on your Oracle side? How many users are still on a version lower than 9.2 in percentage towards the 9.2 release at this moment?
It's
I would suggest that we could look for that. We can maybe give you some directional numbers. We have a challenge in understanding our community, our user community, because we don't know unless you tell us.
Yeah.
So when you enter an SR and you say I'm on 9.1, then we know, hey, you're on 9.1. But if you don't tell us, then we're kind of guessing. So our information is spotty at best. I think in general, what we've found by extrapolating, at the macro level, the numbers that we see, overall, and maybe Paul, you might have went through this in your slides, but we probably have something like between 75 and 80% of our customer base that's on 9.2.
And that's what we project out, based on the information that we have. We're 75 to 80%, so you can therefore do the math. There's
exactly
25% that are still on back releases or unsupported releases, if you will. So.
And also the question related to the topics earlier this afternoon. The difference between the customers still running on a 32 comparing to a 64-bit already, because it's already a timeline from the last 3 years, I assume Clayton said.
Yeah.
So the same question. What's the percentage? Are we behind as customers, or are we coping up?
I think, correct me if I'm right, I'd say when it comes to 64-bit, I'd say it's safe to say we're probably behind. So, that said, we've had a lot of success, right, Jeff? I mean, there's been plenty of customers that have had success going to 64-bit, very seamless, uninterrupted. It's not been a what do you want to call it?
It's not been a business disruption.
Yeah.
So I would say on 64-bit, following our overall strategy of choice and control, we've given our customers choice and control when they can go to 64-bit. We've had customers go to 64-bit, and we understand there's an adoption curve. But I know Clayton talked about this. The prior session is the next tools update will be 64-bit only. We've made that decision because the market and components are being 64-bit only. Database drivers, Java, and we want to ensure that our customers are future-proofing their architecture with JD Edwards and the industry. The second reason why we've made that decision is we've worked with hundreds of customers going to 64-bit with really no business disruption. It is not increasing scope to the projects. It's not increasing complexity, time, or effort. We've delivered utilities to move all the JED's code across. We've delivered utilities to identify if you have customizations that may need to be reworked, cookbooks of how to go do that. We've worked with our OVI partners to make sure their solutions are validated on 64-bit. So again, you've mentioned this has been a 5-year project for us that from when we started. And so, that's where we are. And it's, industry's demanding that everybody move, not just JD Edwards, it's the industry.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thanks. Just a final question, which is more specific to orchestrations. The question is there a way to use the orchestration as a Cafe One startup in an external website without having to log in for the orchestrator to be able to communicate with AIS? I'm trying to follow it myself as well, Jeff.
Again, I would request enter an SR for that. Again, this is I would leave one note with this is, support is there to help address issues that you have. Mm-hmm. Support is there to help you with the enhancements requests that we've talked about and being an avenue to get product improvements. Support is also there to be proactive to help do a level of education and help with these type of questions. Paul's team works with our support organization run by John Green daily. We have a weekly call with them. And they have great resources that can probably answer that question off the top of their head. Yeah. So again, leverage.
And when they don't, at the end of the day, like you said, we collaborate. So they'll enter, a request to my team to get the questions that they can't answer directly answered from the dev team. So in that particular case, if the support engine is unable to understand it, it'll end up with, Daryl Shakespeare and his team to be able to understand what the requirement is and either provide an answer or suggest that we get an enhancement request put in. So, cool.
Great. Thanks very much.
Mm-hmm.
Final question?
No, not for now, for my part. So, I don't know if you have some more questions or the audience. I don't see more questions popping up. So,
no, let's agree that if there are still questions, they know where to find us or even you guys from the development team. I much appreciate your time. For you, the day is starting, so I wish you a very good working day. And hopefully, we can meet sometime again. Probably not this year, but hopefully next year, either here or on the other side in the States. And much appreciated again. So thanks for your time. We'll keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. Very much appreciate
Really
it.
appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dan sluiten wij af in het Nederlands.
Ja, we gaan inderdaad afsluiten. Nog een paar boodschappen meegeven, om het zo te zeggen. Al een paar keer gezegd. We proberen 18 november weer on-site een groot event te organiseren. Maar kort erbij, 24 juni, dus volgende week, OBUG France een sessie met strategy and testimonials, the importance of the orchestrations. Wel één dingetje, de sessie is in het Frans.
Ja, dus dat is voor onze Franstalige collega's van de luisteraars nu. Ja. Dus als je inderdaad een bedrijf hebt in Frankrijk of Frans gerelateerd, dan wordt de sessie volgende week door de Franse usergroep uitgevoerd.
Ik had ergens een boodschap gelezen, vooral voor Boortmalt interessant om dat te volgen. Dat zou ook met Frankrijk te maken hebben.
En we zullen zorgen dat vandaag of morgen de link in ieder geval via ons kanaal ook gepubliceerd wordt.
Ja, oké. Dan kunnen we uiteindelijk afsluiten en een fris pintje gaan pakken.
Ja, dat is heel mooi. Tot slot, ik wil de mensen van BeMate hier op locatie zeker bedanken. Het is warm, maar daar kunnen zij niks aan doen. Alles is qua techniek perfect geregeld. Het is bovendien voor ons de eerste ervaring als Apps Connected 21 dit jaar een meerdaagse digitaal event. Dus wij zullen de komende dagen morgen met Peoplesoft en dan volgende week dinsdag en woensdag met ABS en Oracle Cloud vervolgen. Dan zullen jullie collega's van ons hier zien namens de OBUG en ook andere sprekers. Tot slot, de webinar die vandaag gegeven is en gebroadcast, die wordt uiteraard beschikbaar. En zo snel mogelijk zullen wij de link delen. Ik wil jullie danken voor de aandacht. Filip, bedankt voor dit co-partnership. En op naar een volgende fysieke evenement, de 18e. En webinars wanneer gepland.
Ja,
Dank en een fijne avond.